Lineup. Cubs have won 8 of their last 10. Jerry Hairston back in the lineup in center. Todd Walker snapped a 12-game hitting streak last night. Lee, Ramirez, Barrett, Burnitz in the middle. Jeremy back in right. Cedeno, Merton, and Maddux, a couple of rookies, going 7 and 8.
Take a look at the Reds defensively. Willie Mopena in left today. Griffey Jr. in center. Austin Kearns getting a start in right field. Friel, Lopez, Aurilia, Dunn across the infield. Javier Valentine once again behind the plate for left-hander Eric Milton.
Bunted by Hairston, a dandy as he pushes in and nobody covering first. Aurilia couldn't get over there in time, so Hairston with a bunt single to start it.
Well, what a great idea by Jerry Hairston, a left-handed pitcher on the mound who falls off to the third base side. Adam Dunn playing out of position at first base today and just puts that bunt in an absolutely perfect location, catching the Reds completely by surprise.
Leadoff man is aboard for Todd Walker. Todd went 0 for 4 last night. Again, his 12-game hitting streak came to an end. He hit .373 during the streak. Again, Eric Milton, a guy who has given up 29 home runs already this year. That is skied to center. And it's caught by Griffey. So with 1 out, it'll bring up Derek Lee, who's hitting .500 with 8 home runs against the Reds.
Take a look at Milton's numbers on the season. The 4-10 record, it should be pointed out, he won 2 of his first 3 starts this season. He's won 2 of his next 17 starts. 29 home runs. Gave up 43 last year.
You know, the 29 homers allowed, the most in the majors. And the pitch to Lee. This is ball 1. Derek with a home run in the 7th inning last night. He is in sole possession of all 3 Triple Crown categories right now, leading in average, home runs, and all by himself atop the RBI board as well with 78. One and one on Lee. The Cubs are 5-3 against the Reds, including 3-2 here. 9 home runs in the series for the Cubs. That's high.
Had an opportunity to look at the pitching charts on Eric Milton. Gene Klein's the hitting instructor for the Cubs, had him available down in the clubhouse today, and they show a right-handed batter, they show a left-handed batter, and there are little dots in the strike zone or around the strike zone showing where Milton pitches against righties and lefties. And against the right-handers, a lot of pitches up and out over the plate like that. There's a fastball that he'll cut in on the right-handers, occasionally try to sink it away from the right-handers, a curveball, a changeup, and as we've talked about already, he pitches up in the zone, and because of that gives up a lot of fly balls, almost twice as many fly ball outs as ground ball outs.
The 3-1 pitch, and Derek got under it big time, slams his bat to the dirt, and eventually lands in Lopez's mitt. So 2 outs, and it brings up Aramis Ramirez, a cleanup hitter today.
Derek frustrated with himself, thought he had a good pitch to hit right there. Milton will do that, intentionally pitching up in the strike zone just a little bit higher than the right-handed hitters can handle, trying to get those pop-up outs. The problem is if he misses his spot by a couple of inches, it turns into a long home run.
Ball 1 on Ramirez. You look at the monthly numbers for Milton. In April, his ERA was 6.75, went up to 7.29 in May, 8.02 in June. Actually, hasn't been too bad in July. 3 starts, a 4.50 earned run average. But you mentioned his struggles. His last 10 starts, 1-5 with a 7.57. ERA, and he has 1 win since May 28th. And here's a guy who signed a big 3-year free agent contract in the offseason.
Really puzzling. I mean, we talked about it before the ball game started today. You know, occasionally there will be a signing that just makes you scratch your head. Everybody around baseball knew Eric Milton was a fly ball pitcher. As I mentioned, he gave up 43 home runs pitching in Philadelphia last year. This ballpark very similar to that ballpark in Philadelphia in that it yields a lot of home runs.
Milton with a look at Hairston out of the plate, and that's hammered foul by Ramirez. The facing of the upper deck.
And we've talked about it throughout this 4-game series. It figures to build a pitching staff for this ballpark, for 81 games in this ballpark, you better have something that moves toward the ground, either a sinker, a splitter, a sharp late breaking slider, something that you can keep the ball on the ground and hopefully keep it in the ballpark. But fly ball pitchers that work up in the strike zone are not going to have a lot of success pitching here.
1-2 pitch, and you see he'll vary his delivery to the plate with a runner at first. He'll use a slide step. He'll go with that big leg kick. And in fact, Hairston went back towards first as Milton lifted his right leg and ended up going toward the plate. Two golfed into center. Griffey will dive, just can't make the catch. Hairston is going to stop at third. So a single for Ramirez, and the inning's still alive.
We've seen this happen a couple times in this series both ways, when one of the big power hitters for either team takes a full swing and gets jammed, hits a little floater out into the shallow outfield areas. It fools the outfielders initially. Of course, everybody plays deep in this ballpark to begin with, but Junior froze in his tracks momentarily and just couldn't recover in time to make the catch.
Griffey, a 10-time Gold Glover, but his last one was in '99. But a good effort out there in center. 2 hits in the inning, and now it's Michael Barrett hitting .417 against the Reds this year with 1 home run. And currently on a 7-game hitting streak. Cubs are tied for second in the division, 13 out. They're tied with Houston. 3-way tie for third in the wild card, with Houston and the Mets 5 back of Atlanta. The Reds, meanwhile, have been in last place for the last 39 days, but right now just a half game back of the 5th place Pirates, who have lost 5 in a row. And 3-0. And consider this, a guy on deck, a left-handed hitter, Jeremy Burnitz, but he's 4 for 6 with 2 home runs against Milton.
Milton is not really the kind of left-hander that is tough on a left-handed hitter. His fastball's fairly straight. He tries to sink it, he tries to cut it, but doesn't have a lot of movement. Big curveball is very slow and easy to pick up out of his hand, so doesn't really have a pitch for lefties.
Here he comes on a 3-1 with Ramirez running. This one will get back behind the Reds dugout, back just off the back of the dugout. Michael handling Greg Maddux today on the hill. Maddux with 8 wins. And again, 6 strikeouts away from 3,000. He'd love to take the mound with a lead here in the 1st inning. Ramirez will be running again. There he goes on a 3-2 pitch, and he'll have to retreat. Really got knocked around at Wrigley by the Cubs on April 26th. Got a no decision, 5 innings, 11 hits, 8 runs. Another 3-2. This one lifted back of the second base position, and Aurilia called off by Kearns. Fly ball pitcher, and the Cubs flying out 3 times. Maddux to the hill when we come back.
You're watching Cubs baseball on Comcast Sportsnet.
Well, these Cubs fans are ready to go today. Boy, it's early, but got the face paint working and everything. Greg Maddux will face this Cincinnati Reds starting lineup. Ryan Friel started at second base coming off the DL last night. He's at third today. Lopez at short. Griffey in center. Austin Kearns, his first action since being called up from the minor leagues. Adam Dunn at first. So Sean Casey out of the lineup. Aurilia, Pena, Valentine, and Milton rounded out.
Take a look at the Cubs defense, brought to you by Rico. Matt Merton in left, Jerry Harrison Jr. in center. Jeremy Burnett's back in right field today. Ramirez, Ronnie Cedeno getting a start at short. Todd Walker at second. Derek Lee over at first. Michael Barrett behind the plate for future Hall of Famer and future 3,000 strikeout pitcher Greg Maddux.
Faces Ryan Friel. Strike one on a fastball at 84 from Maddux.
Well, as always with Greg Maddux, the strike zone is going to determine his ability to strike out hitters. Larry Vanover behind the plate today. Guy that will expand the zone from time to time, especially if a veteran pitcher shows he's hitting his spots consistently.
2 quick strikes on Friel. The next pitch struck him out. How about that start? Friel caught looking, so now Maddux 5 away. You know, why not get it out of the way in the first 2 innings?
Well, I was just thinking that with the strike zone that we saw right there to Ryan Friel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rich Aurilia will be the 3,000 strikeout victim. That comeback sinker that starts well off the outside corner might have gotten to the outside corner. Called strike 3 on Ryan Friel.
It is a good matchup for Maddux in that regard because the Reds have the most strikeouts in the National League, 744 strikeouts.
And it seems like Maddux pitches well under these conditions. Threw a real good game down in Florida in the hot, humid weather down there. Very sticky here in Cincinnati this afternoon. Seems to get a little more movement on that sinker, a little more downward movement on his changeup, the more humid it is.
We've talked about this before. The 3,000 strikeout club, a more exclusive fraternity than the 300 win club. Lopez swinging and missing. Maddux right now is 17th on the wins list with 313 wins. One behind Gaylord Perry for 16. Two and popped up by Lopez. Ronnie Cedeno, he's under it. Well, Maddux has always downplayed or deprecated, I guess, his personal achievements, and just talking about today, he said, I just want to win. Just want to get the win.
Well, you know the 3,000 strikeouts is inevitable. It's going to happen at some point, whether it's today or his next start or the start after that. It doesn't really matter to Greg Maddux. It's a wonderful accomplishment, and I'm sure after he retires and leaves the game, he can sit home with his kids and his grandkids and reflect back on what a great career he's had. But he's a competitor. He's a great teammate. He just wants to win.
Inside on Griffey, hit his 522nd home run in the ball game last night. 14th on the all-time home run list. Drives that ball to center, and Lucky for him, he didn't hit it well enough as it got down in front of Hairston. And now the return of Austin Kearns.
Griffey, much like Aramis Ramirez in the top half of the inning, those big power hitters, you have to respect that power, play a little deeper in the outfield. Hairston got a great jump on that ball, but Junior just didn't hit it hard enough to get it out there to it.
After a slow start, Austin Kearns was optioned to AAA Louisville on June 12th. Spent over a month in the minor leagues. He did everything the Reds asked. He hit .342 with 7 home runs. I mean, the power was there, the average was there, and he also lost some weight. Lost about 10 pounds. Got into better shape, and he was brought back yesterday. In fact, arrived at the ballpark in about the, I guess, the 7th inning. The Louisville bats were in Pawtucket. So getting from Pawtucket to Cincinnati, a little bit more involved than just getting up from Louisville.
Said he was stretching as he was putting his uniform on. In the event he came into the ball game as a defensive replacement or a pinch hitter or as part of a double switch.
1-1 pitch, fouled back. So the tentative plan is for Kearns to split time out in right with Willie Mo Pena. Well, Pena's playing left today. We've done it first, and Casey out of the lineup. Slicing, and it gets past Burnitz. Griffey is going to stop at third. It is a double for Austin Kearns in his first at bat since returning. The only good news for the Cubs there is that Ken Griffey is not 25 anymore.
I was watching Mark Berry, the third base coach, to see if he had ideas about sending Griffey. He waited until Burnitz retrieved the ball and saw where the throw was in relation to the cutoff man, and only then did Berry throw up the stop sign. As a third base coach for any ball club, you have to plan ahead a little bit, know who the next hitter is, how many outs in the inning, what's the game situation, what's the score, where are we at in the ball game. And with Adam Dunn coming up to the plate, you don't want to get anybody thrown out at home plate.
Second and third with 2 outs. Pitch on the way to Dunn, fouled off to the left. Well, Brad Wilkerson beat Dunn to 100 strikeouts. Dunn with 99, Wilkerson with 100. Major league leaders, a former Cub, Mark Bellhorn, with 109. Richie Sexton with 105 over the American League. Ground ball, and the shortstop Cedeno will throw out Dunn. The big shift put on. Works nicely. Maddux with 1 strikeout in the inning. 0-0. Receive in-game alerts, scores, breaking news, and more instantly on your mobile phone for only $3.99 per month. Simply text the word Cubs to 65246 or MLB Go from your mobile phone. And we'd like to welcome all of our viewers watching on Diverse Communications in Woodhall, Illinois. No score, second inning, each team with 2 hits in the opening frame, but no runs. Jeremy Burnitz moonlighting as a center fielder last night, but back in right. Did you see the full moon this morning at, what, 7 a.m.? We were talking about it last night.
I have to say I missed it.
I did too.
Unless it was in my room, I wouldn't have seen it.
Even then, you might not have seen it, right?
Probably not.
Valentine wants it away. That's where the pitch is to make it 3-0. Talk about the home runs. The other thing for Eric Milton, he's allowed 147 hits in 112.2, rather 2/3 innings pitched. So way too many hits. That is a strike, and it's full. A couple of rookies to follow, Cedeno and Merton, here in the second inning. Griffey comes in about 4 steps. And it'll bring up Cedeno, making his 8th start at short. A.P. Perez getting the day off today.
You'll notice as Javier Valentine, the Reds catcher, gives his signs to Eric Milton. He sits very high in his crouch. Generally, a catcher's rear end will drop nearly down to his heels as he gives the sign to the pitcher. Sometimes guys that sit up as high as Valentine does will expose those signs to the guys over in that third base dugout. So to try to combat that, you can see the fingers hang down a little bit there. Sometimes you can see that from the dugout. But to combat that, he tries to get his hand as far back into his crotch as he can to try to hide them from the guys in the coach's box and over in the third base dugout. His very subtle movements, first with his index finger, then with his little finger, indicating a fastball away to the right-handed hitter. That's one of the things that they've wanted Valentine to work on, is his flexibility. Very stiff in the knees and the quadriceps muscles. Doesn't really get down as much as you'd like to see a catcher get down back there.
Hey, guess what? Another fly ball, and Kearns runs this one down. All the outs have been in the air. 4 flyouts and 1 pop out, and Matt Merton will get his first career at bat against Eric Milton. 4 for 5 in game 1 Monday for the rookie Merton.
And Merton showing great patience and a willingness to go to the opposite field. When pitchers work him away, he's perfectly content to shoot that ball into right field.
Eric Milton has a no-hitter on his resume as a Minnesota Twin. He threw a no-no against the Angels on September 11th, 1999 as a Philly. He took a no-hitter into the 9th against the Cubs last year. Almost a year ago. In fact, it was July 25th. Ended up with a no decision. Cubs got a bloop double from Michael Barrett to start that 9th inning. Eventually scored 2 runs to tie it. Phillies would win it in the bottom of the 9th. But again, he had a no-hitter going into the inning and could not even get a win on his record. That's tough luck.
For a guy like Milton to throw a no-hitter or come close to a no-hitter, it's usually an indication that he just had tremendous command of all of his pitches on a given day. You look at a guy like Kerry Wood, perhaps, and if he strikes out 20 in a ball game, it's usually because he has some devastating pitch that's getting a lot of swinging strikes, a lot of quick outs. But for Milton, he needs to have great command. His stuff is not really good enough to blow hitters away.
That day against the Cubs, 8 2/3, 3 hits, 2 runs, 12 strikeouts. So couldn't get that final out in the 9th. As Merton, you mentioned the patience, draws the walk.
Well, it's still very early in Matt Merton's major league career, but certainly a lot of signs that this guy is not intimidated. He's not overwhelmed. Great patience for a young hitter, the willingness to go to the opposite field. He's shown great instincts on the bases.
And that's the 3rd walk he has drawn as a big leaguer. Greg Maddux fouls it out of play.
Many times you'll see a youngster come up from the minor leagues, and just because they're in the major leagues, they get away from the things that made them successful in the minor leagues. But Merton appears to have just carried his game right up from AAA and continues to do the same things he was doing successfully down in the minors.
Maddux went too far. 2 strikes. He has 244 career hits. He has a 3-game hitting streak. He's 4 for 8 over his last 3 outings. And he waved at that high fastball and strikes out. Bottom second. Maddux now 5 strikeouts away from 3,000. No score. Weekdays, don't miss Chicago Tribune Live on Comcast Sportsnet. It's Chicago Sports Show. Dan Jiggets and a rotating panel of sports writers and special guests discuss the day's hottest topics and get you ready for the night in sports. Don't miss Chicago Tribune Live today at 5:30 only on Comcast Sportsnet. Well, some sun here this afternoon in Cincinnati. Rich Aurilia is 6 for 34 with a home run against Greg Maddux, and he bounces one just foul. A couple of 2-out hits for the Reds in the first inning. Maddux stranded them at second and third. When he gets that 3,000 strikeout, Maddux admits he'll keep the baseball, but he says the wins, the innings pitched, and the World Series ring he has more important than the strikeouts. He'd love another World Series ring. And Aurilia crushes one to deep left field, and that one will go. 10th home run for Aurilia. And the second in this series. You get a 2-run blast in game 1.
The 18th home run surrendered by Maddux this year. A sinker that started over the middle of the plate, tailed down and in. Just didn't get it to the spot he wanted right there. Wanted that ball inside a little bit further, where Aurilia would have rolled over and hit another ground ball toward third base, but just stayed over the heart of the plate a little bit too much.
Outside corner, it's a strike. Now the Reds back into a 4-man outfield rotation, and this is really the first time Jerry Narron has had to figure this out, because he took over on June 21st. Austin Kearns was already in the minor leagues as Pena strikes out, so Maddux is 4 away from 3,000.
Narron may not have to work on that 4-man outfield rotation too much as we head into the trading deadline. You see Willie Mo Pena chasing an 85-mile-an-hour fastball up around the letters. Adam Dunn, Ken Griffey Jr., even Austin Kearns, all their names have been mentioned in possible trade rumors.
Strike after the foul by Valentine. He hit a home run last night. 3 home runs his last 2 games. He hit 2 Sunday against the Rockies. Gets inside. Creel struck out looking in the first inning. Pena swinging here in the second. For the 2 strikeouts for Greg Maddux. His changeup.
Keep an eye on the home plate umpire Larry Vanover as he moves around behind the plate with Michael Barrett. When Barrett moves inside on a left-handed hitter, Vanover tries to stay on that inside shoulder and almost gets completely screened by the batter. Valentine stands very close to the plate, and when Michael Barrett moves inside, Vanover moves with him, and it looks like he's having a real hard time getting a look at the pitches. Barrett will give his sign, and then he'll set up where he wants the pitch delivered. This is going to be a changeup on the inside part of the plate. You see Vanover kind of craning his neck to get a look at it there as Valentine goes down on strikes.
That's 3 for Maddux today. So he's 3 away.
That's something that Maddux does that very few pitchers will do. Throw his changeup to the inside part of the plate. He'll do that intentionally a lot of times early in the count. Gets a hitter way out in front, and he'll pull the ball foul for strike 1. Foul ball, strike 1. There he went to the changeup for the strikeout.
102 Milton, fouled back our way. Milton hitting 152 this year. Does have a home run. It was on May 8th against Jeff Weaver of the Dodgers. First career home run. So each starting pitcher today with a home run this year. Maddux hit one off John Halama of the Red Sox at Wrigley on June 10th. Back 2-2. Not that Maddux would try for strikeouts. It's something he really hasn't done his whole career, but I'm sure he'd rather just get the 6 out of the way, and he needs just 3 more. He has 3 already, and he won't have to be asked about it a whole lot more. No strikeout here. Milton rifling one into right. Here's the Geico Direct quote from Maddux on strikeouts. He says, trying to strike out every hitter is a good way to run your pitch count up, not be around for the 6th and 7th. If I strike them out, great. If they ground out, that's okay too. You have to get 27 outs to win. It doesn't matter how you get them.
That's that KISS theory. Keep it simple, stupid. Just throw the ball over the plate. Let your defense work behind you. Why should you work any harder than you have to?
Paul Stanley come up with that, the KISS theory. Base hit to center. So just like the first inning, the Reds with back-to-back 2-out hits. The difference here in the second is Rich Aurilia started the inning with a home run. Maddux and Barrett chatting things over. And again, Kerry Wood with right shoulder inflammation. Hopefully nothing serious. Kerry is scheduled to meet with the media after the ball game today. Bouncer to Walker. Short throw to Lee, and the Reds done. They strand 2, but they do get a run on the leadoff homer from Aurilia. 1-0 Reds.
Cubs baseball on Comcast Sportsnet.
Don't pass up your opportunity to experience a Cubs game from one of the official rooftop partners across the street from Wrigley Field. For information, visit ballparkrooftops.com. It's heating up here in Cincinnati. Game time temperature 84 degrees. The sun is now out. It is going to be a hot weekend in the Midwest. I'm seeing triple digits in various places. It's going to be warm in St. Louis. We know that in late July. That's a given every summer. Top of the order, the Cubs are down 1-0. Greg Maddux with 3 strikeouts through 2 innings. So now he has 2,997. Hairston with a bunt single in the first inning, 4 for 11 in the series. Pushes one again. Milton got off the mound quickly, and he gets it to Dunn. Didn't fool him that time.
It just wasn't as good of a bunt that time. The first time he got it past Eric Milton out there into no man's land. Dunn was still playing very back. Aurilia was playing far back at second base. See, they were in their normal positions. The first bunt, however, was a little bit harder. He was able to get it past Milton. And Hairston jumping over the base down there at first so as not to spike Adam Dunn, whose foot was in the middle of the base. We mentioned he doesn't play a lot of first base, but it's a good way to get your foot stepped on.
Pitch to Walker, drops in for a strike on a nifty curveball. Some other early action in the National League today. Mets leading the Padres 1-0 as they bat. Mets bat in the home half of the fifth. Dodgers leading the first inning run at Philadelphia. Phillies batting in the bottom of the first. It's 1-0. Inside on Walker. American League, Toronto 2, Seattle 0. Bottom 3 in Canada. And the Indians lead the Royals 3-1. Bottom 6 in Cleveland. Look out, Eric Milton, a boomerang base hit. Came in pretty hot, but just looked at the speed gun. They have a pitch speed display in the outfield. It said 97. I believe that's how hard Todd Walker hit it.
That was probably the ball coming off the bat right there. Eric Milton probably had up 2 of his changeups to get to 97, but that ball came right back where it came from. A lot of times that radar gun will get the throwbacks from the catcher to the pitcher. You'll see 42, 48.
I mentioned Derek right now leading the Triple Crown categories. In fact, in sole possession of first in all 3. Go back to 1968. Only 2 guys have led in all 3 categories later in a season. In '72, Dick Allen of the White Sox was leading in the American League on September 8th. Gary Sheffield of the Padres in '92 on August 23rd was leading the National League in all 3. It is July 21st, and Derek Lee has the lead. We've gotten a couple of emails. Somebody asking if, Derek leads in a couple of categories at the end of the year, but is tied for first in another one. Would it still be the Triple Crown? I would say yes. If you're in first in a category, you're the leader. That's the booth's opinion. We don't know. I don't know how he couldn't be. Deep to left, and Pena tracking makes a catch just onto the warning track.
Well, I mean, if for example, if Derek Lee and Andrew Jones tie with the same number of home runs, when you talk about it, they led the league, both of them, co-leaders. So I would certainly think that if you ended up tied in one of the Triple Crown categories and were solo in the other 2, that you would still be the Triple Crown winner.
Ramirez singled in the first inning. 7 for 13 in this series. The other great Derek Lee, there are a ton of them, but he is in the top 3 in the National League in average on base slugging, home runs, RBIs, hits, total bases, and extra base hits. Only twice prior to this year all time as a player finished in the top 3 in his league in those categories. Nat Lajoie of Cleveland in 1904 and Ty Cobb with the Tigers in 1909.
He's doing something this year that I've never seen before. I've never seen a hitter stay as hot as long as Derek Lee has.
To Ramirez is upstairs, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
As a hitter, your approach against Eric Milton is kind of backwards to what you usually do. Generally, when you face a pitcher, you in your mind you say make him get the ball up. Look for something up in the strike zone. But Milton works at the top and above the top of the strike zone, so your approach to him should be make him get the ball down. Ramirez has had a couple of pretty good rips at pitches down around the knees. Milton doesn't go down there very often. He's usually working from the belt up.
Now, a lot of guys will hold the ball in the stretch position with a changeup grip. Some guys with a splitter grip. That looks like the four-seam grip.
Yeah, he'll throw his cut fastball off of that grip. You'll see he adjusts in his glove right there. If you watch his fingers closely, sometimes he'll make the adjustment up there in the glove. And the reason a lot of pitchers have the changeup grip to begin with is because it's much easier to go from a circle change or a split finger grip to any other pitch where you're only using your index and middle finger. It's a lot easier to do that than go from a two-finger grip to a split finger or a changeup. Yeah, it involves a lot more movement. It's much easier for the hitter to pick up that wiggle or the movement of the hand and the arm and the glove as he changes the grip. See just some subtle finger movement up there in his glove as he rolls that ball around in his hand.
Ramirez just reached out, sent a lazy fly to Kearns to end the inning. Cubs have left 4 through 3. They're down 1-0. Bottom 3, 1-0 Reds. Rich Aurilia with a leadoff homer in the second inning. Greg Maddux with 3 strikeouts today, 3 away from 3,000. Some other notes: only 8 pitchers currently have won 300 games and have struck out 3,000, so he'd be the 9th. Line right at the third baseman Ramirez. Tony Cedeno is playing behind second base. Get a complete recap of the day in sports with Sports Night on Comcast Sportsnet. Coming up tonight at 6:30, Cubs highlights and an NHL player update. Join William and Gale for Sports Night tonight at 6:30, only on Comcast Sportsnet. Ball one on Austin Kearns, doubled to right in his first at bat. Maddux will join Bob Gibson. He's the only pitchers to have pitched their entire career in the National League, getting that 3,000 strikeout club. Cubs will be the first team to have 2 players reach the exclusive fraternity in their uniform. Fergie Jenkins, the other. Wide and the 2-1 pitch, and now 3-1. Fergie Jenkins also the only pitcher right now with 3,000 strikeouts and fewer than 1,000 walks. Greg Maddux with just 892 career walks. See if he can avoid one here. 3-1 to Kearns, and it's 3-2.
Maddux, after working away, runs a sinker actually up and into Kearns, hits the top half of the ball, fouls it off his foot.
Base hit to left, so Kearns was hitting at AAA, and he just continues it back here in the big leagues, 2 for 2.
There's never been a question about Austin Kearns' ability as a baseball player. He does everything well on the field. The only question was, could you keep him healthy long enough to see those numbers?
Adam Dunn with his 25th home run last night. So at least 25 home runs in 4 straight seasons. He's the 6th Red to have done that. Eric Davis, Ted Kluszewski, George Foster, Johnny Bench, Frank Robinson. Pretty good group. Bench and Robinson did it in 7 straight years with the Reds. Right back to Maddux. Cedeno covering second, fires it to Lee. It goes 1-6-3. Nice double play turned by the Cubs to the 4th, 1-0 Cincinnati. Now that point in the telecast where we find out who was paying attention in the last inning. Our Aflac trivia question kind of gave it away. And the only pitcher to record 3,000 or more strikeouts and less than 1,000 walks. Think about it. We'll get you the answer in the bottom of the inning. Don't rewind the videotape or
no fair.
TiVo it. Just try to remember if you can. Michael Barrett. Ball 1. 4th inning. Talked about Milton's no-hit bid that was broken up in Philadelphia last year. Michael Barrett, the guy who broke it up. It was a flare to center. Doug Glanville froze on it and then couldn't get it. On a diving attempt, it was a double. Line and the 1-0 offering. 2 balls, no strikes. It took the Cubs a while to get to Aaron Harang. They scored 3 times in the 7th. But that was it. Harang then really settled down the final 2 innings and completed the game. And for the Reds, their first complete game of the year. Bounce to Friel at 3rd. Eric Milton has not completed 7 innings in any start his last 10 times out. And only 2 times all year has he gone at least 7 innings. This is his 21st start.
Not the kind of performance you would expect from a guy who got a multi-year, multi-million-dollar free agent contract to come over here and pitch for the Reds. In a good spot in the rotation, however. If he does have anything working for him, following Harang as Bernie lines one into center field. Harang last night, with the exception of that 7th inning when he gave up the back-to-back home runs and another run later in the inning, everything was down. Knees are below. Knees are below. Sinker, slider, everything down, down, down. And then you follow him in the rotation with a guy who works at the very upper limits of the strike zone. It does give the hitters a completely different look from one game to the next. But apparently Milton has not been able to take advantage of that the way the Reds thought he should.
Runner at first with 1 out. Cedeno 0 for 1. Driven right center field, splitting Griffey and Kearns. Burnitz is going to be sent by Chris Spire. Aurilia with a relay throw, and Burnitz is safe. It was close, but Burnitz just got in. So Cedeno ties it. Burnitz taking his time after that slide.
Well, Ronnie staying on one of those fastballs up and out over the plate, doesn't try to lift it to left field, just drives it the opposite way. Once it splits the gap, Bernie is off to the races. He knows that ball's going to drop. Thinks he has a chance to score. A good turn at second base, a good turn at third base. A little bit of an awkward slide here at the end. He had to get around Javier Valentine to get on that plate. drags his hand through that right-handed batter's box, the right leg dragging through that right-handed batter's box, but able to avoid the block at home plate and score the first run of the game for the Cubs.
I don't know if one of his legs got caught underneath him when he kind of collided with Valentine. He was really coming in pretty fast. Now it's 1-1. Cedeno with the RBI double.
Looks like they're looking ankle or his foot there, right ankle.
You see the skid marks where he came sliding into the plate.
Keep an eye on the right foot as he goes in there. Now, the right foot probably catches the left foot of Javier Valentine before springing loose and sliding across the plate. Valentine trying to block it. Burnett's trying to get around, and it looked like he may have just caught the left shin guard of Javier Valentine with that right foot.
Two strikes on Matt Merton. Left field, Pena plays that one on the bounce. Cedeno has to hold. He didn't know if Pena was going to catch it. So first and second.
Let's take one last look at that Jeremy Burnett slide at home plate. Once again, watch his right foot as it ricochets off the shin guard of Javier Valentine and then across home plate. Hopefully nothing worse than a little bit of a bruise. Got a strawberry right there on his knee that you can clearly see. That's an occupational hazard for a position player. Most guys have those on their knees or their elbows from the first day of spring training until the end of the season. Especially those guys that are on base a lot and are sliding a lot.
Meanwhile, Matt Merton is 5 for 6 in this series. Maddux pops it foul on the bunt. You see what he did? And when he popped it up, he took the bat like I ought to. Watch this. You want to hit it again.
Well, he is a perfectionist. I mean, we've talked about it all afternoon. All he cares about is winning, and he knows that the ability to get down a bunt, to field his position, to do all those other things that pitchers have to do are going to go a long way toward determining whether he wins or loses a ball game. To get the barrel of the bat up high.
And swings away, bounces it into right. Cedeno heading home. Here's a throw, cut off by Dunn. Just fooled everybody. And he now has a 4-game hitting streak. He gives the Cubs the lead. It's 2-1.
Boy, that's exactly how you draw it up. This little slug bunt, pull the defense in, and then just chop at the ball. Look where Dunn is. He's about 35, 40 feet from home plate when Maddux slaps that ball past him. Kearns made that throw on the run, and I think the inexperience of Adam Dunn at first base may have given the Cubs a run there. It looked like that throw was on line and in plenty of time to get the runner at the plate, but Dunn cut it off.
4 straight hits for the Cubs, all for that bottom of the order, 6 through 9. Swing and a miss by Hairston. And notice it came right after he popped up the bunt foul and was very upset with himself. Came right back and just executed everything perfectly.
Well, you see a lot of pitchers try that during the course of the season, but one mistake they usually make is they try to hit the ball too hard. I mean, you've already got the defense broken up. You've got guys breaking all over the place. You got the corner infielders charging. All you have to do is make contact and not hit it directly at somebody, and you're probably going to get a base hit. That's all Maddux did, just pulled the bat back and kind of punched at the ball.
Wrapping that ankle, I'm sure you saw the top of that foot, a nice scrape on it as well. Look at his drilled foul. by Hairston, and it was nowhere near Chris Spire. That's how far he pulled it.
And Chris Spire is probably standing 10 or 15 feet closer to home plate than the coach's box, and he still pulled it well wide of him.
Yeah, it was behind where Chris Spire is standing. Chris wants to get in a good position. He's closer to the plate than he normally would be because Matt Merton is the runner at second. He wants to get a good angle on that runner.
Yeah, if you really watch a third base coach during the course of a ball game, they will be up and down that line, very rarely in that coach's box. When they have a runner coming from first around second base to third, they'll move as far out the left field line as they can get to get in that runner's line of vision so they can pick him up quickly, and then as the runner comes from second to third, they'll run toward home plate to get as far down the line towards home as they can so they can wait till the last possible instant to either send or hold that runner. Coach's box is just a decoration.
Two runs in already here in this inning. The RBIs coming from Cedeno and Maddux. And Valentine will head out to chat with Milton. And these are the kinds of innings you really love to see from the Cubs, who have been known as a home run hitting team the last couple of years. High percentage in comparison to other teams of their runs coming via the home run, but not thus far today. 7 hits and no home runs.
Well, this kind of an inning is all about pressure. You keep pressure on the pitcher, pressure on the catcher, pressure on the infield defense.
Back of first goes Dunn into foul territory and makes a catch. Todd Walker 1 for 2.
Big at bat here for Todd Walker. Like to find a way to get on base, possibly drive in a run, but what you really want in this situation is to get Derek Lee to the plate. With some runners on base and an opportunity to really do some damage.
We saw in the open right off the bat some Greg Maddux strikeouts from 1986, and if you look closely, you notice the uniform pants, the bottoms were up about mid-calf. It's the way guys wore them back in the 80s. Of course, it looks strange to see that now. And just looking at Todd Walker, and the pant bottoms down around his heels, Derek Lee on deck, and most guys have them pretty low. I wonder if in 20 years we'll look back and say, wow, that looks strange.
Guys will probably be wearing shorts in 20 years, like the old White Sox. It'll probably be some kind of neoprene body suit that you slide into, that you don't get those kind of strawberries from sliding on the bases, and you're more aerodynamic and padded.
Nobody does what Maddux does anymore. It's either all the way down where you're almost walking on your pant bottoms, or hiked up right around the kneecaps.
First got to the big leagues, we were required to show 2 inches of the team color socks. And back then everybody wore the old stirrups, which were a pain in the butt anyway. You had to put on sanitary socks and then these stirrup socks and to show 2 inches of color. I'm not even sure Todd Walker has socks on.
Here's a 2-1 Walker, driven deep. Kearns going back on it. That is a 3-run homer. Third home run of the series for Todd Walker, and the big blast makes it 5-1. And all 3 homers in this series for Walker off left-handers.
he'll get Derek Lee to the plate. Unfortunately, the bases have been cleared with that 3-run homer. That's why Todd Walker is in this Cubs lineup. He swings that bat against righties, against lefties, and swings it with authority. He gets the ball a little bit out over the plate. Good extension, good quick hands through the hitting zone. Just over that 370 mark. Our Heineken home run replay. Todd Walker with his 7th home run of the season.
30th home run allowed by Eric Milton. Home runs have been hit in this series. The Cubs have hit 10. Oh, what a stop by Creel. Dropped the ball, won't make a throw, and Lee with the infield hit. He's 1 for 3.
Well, this is a nice play just to get to this ball. Hit right over the third base bag, headed for foul territory. Creel kind of landed awkwardly on his glove after grabbing that ball, and no sense throwing that one. Derek Lee's going to beat it easily.
6 hits in the inning. Now, what I should have added earlier about stringing the hits together, you like to cap it off, of course, with the 3-run homers, so you've seen a little bit of everything here this 4th inning. Kind of like mixing in a salad, you know. You get all your basic food groups taken care of.
And every now and then you got to mix in a big steak, too. Right. 3-run homer.
Take mine with vinaigrette, thank you. The salad, that is. That one hit hard. Creel with a diving stop. This time picks himself up, makes a good throw. 9 men sent to the plate by the Cubs here in the 4th inning. Big crooked number, 5 runs, 3 coming on this swing from Todd Walker. It's 5-1. Maybe paying homage to Fergie Jenkins. Named the only pitcher to record 3,000 or more strikeouts in less than 1,000 walks. Yeah, Fergie Jenkins. 3,192 strikeouts, 997 walks. So Greg Maddux said today he just wants to try to get the win. Well, he has a 5-1 lead. Aurilia with a leadoff homer in the 2nd. Maddux with 3 strikeouts through 3 innings. 3 away from 3,000. 1 of the first, 2 in the 2nd. He also has a go-ahead RBI today. 2-2 on Aurilia. Aurilia with his 2nd career home run against Maddux in the 2nd inning. Pitch. Line just past Walker into right. $16 hits combined. Cubs with 9, the Reds now with 7.
When you look at the 3 strikeouts that Maddux has in this game, of course, Ryan Freel struck out looking to start the game on 3 pitches. That was kind of unusual for a contact hitter like Ryan Freel, but Willie Mopena and Javier Valentine, the 2 guys at the bottom of this Reds order, very much fastball hitters, very much free swingers, the kind of guys that figure to punch out against a crafty veteran like Greg Maddux. I mean, even Adam Dunn, who struck out 99 times on the season, will make an adjustment facing a pitcher like Greg Maddux. The younger, more aggressive hitters are going to go up there and do what they always do. Look for a fastball, try to hit it out of the ballpark. And Maddux will prey on that aggression.
3-0.
Love to watch Mad Dog. He gets frustrated. The ball's halfway to home plate, and he already knows it's not where he wanted it. Frustrated with himself.
Aurilia, the runner at first with nobody out. Cubs with 5 big ones at the top of this inning. Here he comes. High bouncer. Ramirez hoping, and it does. Kick foul. Saw a quote from Barry Larkin, and sounds like he's considering returning to the field. Mentioned Jim Bowden, the Nationals general manager, former GM of the Reds. He's been trying to get Larkin to come out of retirement. So you never know. Ramirez will get it to Walker. The turn is late. Todd couldn't get much on the throw.
Another slow developing double play. You see how deep Aramis Ramirez is when he gets that ball. Walker just tries to quick trigger it out there at second base. Couldn't get much on the throw, but came off the back of the bag at second to protect himself from that sliding runner, and the fadeaway throw was just not in time to get Pena at first. It's one of the defense mechanisms a second baseman has out there when you turn the double play. Sometimes they'll come across the bag. Sometimes they'll touch the bag and back up toward their normal position, and other times they'll fade away from the base into shallow left center almost, using that base to protect themselves from the sliding runner. Got to be unpredictable as a second baseman out there if you want to avoid that sliding runner.
Swing and a miss.
You take a look as Ramirez feeds Todd Walker, and he comes off the back of the base. That runner has to hit the bag, go over the base before he can even get to Todd Walker. But when you fade away like that, you can't get as much on the throw.
The 0-2 smothered by Barrett. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Struck out Valentine back in the second inning on a changeup inside. Started the ball off the plate inside, got Valentine way out in front, swung right over the top of it.
There goes the runner. Pitches inside. Barrett will not make a throw. Pena with his second steal of the year.
That was another inside changeup, that time in the dirt. Michael Barrett with no chance to throw out Pena. Got a great jump over there at first, and then with the ball in the dirt, just too much time had elapsed for him to even risk making a throw.
Kick and the 2-2 pitch hit high in the air to right field, and Javier Valentine with another home run. He's made 2 starts in the series, a home run in each. And missing the first 2 games of this series did not cool him off. It's 5-3.
Yeah, it looked like Greg Maddux went to the well once too often there. He had missed inside with 2 changeups. Tried to come back with 1 more. Valentine all over it.
On the ground to Cedeno. He retires Milton. What a second out.
Pitch was 79 miles an hour. Just gets out over the plate a little bit too much. See, when Valentine hits a home run, he gets a lot of air under it. Skyscraper fly balls.
He's 4 for 7 with 3 home runs against Greg Maddux. Creel, the leadoff hitter, 1 for 2. Strike one. Just wanted to read you the Barry Larkin quote, and you tell me what your gut feeling is. He asked me to help the team, talking about Jim Bowden. I told him earlier, if he were in dire straits, I would do what I could. I can't answer if I'm going to play or not. I've got 3 kids I've got to talk to, 3 young bosses, and 1 wife. And he wants to spend some time thinking about it. I have a feeling he's going to play. I think if you're not going to play, you say no. Maybe, I think, means yes. We'll see. 5-3 Cubs. Tonight, American League powers collide on the south side as Paul Konerko and the White Sox entertain David Ortiz and the World Series champion Red Sox. Red Sox, White Sox tonight at 7. Right here on Comcast Sportsnet. Just try to stay cool, get a little mist on a hot day like this. 5-3 Cubs as they bat here in the 5th inning. Pitch to Michael Barrett. Curveball low, ball 1. Born in State College, Pennsylvania. In the corner, Barrett around first, and Pena pretty nonchalant down there. Didn't pick up the baseball in time. Tell you what, if he gets to that ball in a hurry, picks it up, I'm not sure Michael Barrett tries for a double. We'll never know. It's a 2-base hit for Barrett. And an 8-game hitting streak.
This is Pena's 2nd start in left field this season, and he has not looked comfortable out there all afternoon. Even on the routine fly balls, he looks a little unsure of himself, and just doesn't come up with this one, allowing Michael Barrett to move on to second base.
It fouls it back. Remember, you saw that right foot getting taped up earlier. Cubs trying to add on here. Their lead is 2. Low outside.
It's with the Babe Ruth look with his pants. Trying to hook a ball to the right side here. Advance Michael Barrett to third base. Set the table for Ronnie Cedeno and Matt Merton.
If his shirt were bigger, he probably would have been hit. If it were bloused a little bit, it would have hit it. It was that close.
Where's Babe Ruth's number?
Two-one on the way. It's slicing away from Griffey, who knocks it down, keeps it in front of him. Burnett's on his way to second with a stand-up double. Back-to-back doubles. Barrett is at third, and Ronnie Cedeno will come up with 2 men in scoring position. And it doesn't look like he's going to bat against Eric Milton as the manager, Jerry Narron, comes out.
Well, that's a walk that Jerry Narron has taken a lot of times in his tenure as the interim manager here with the Reds.
Another short outing for Eric Milton. Ford called to the pen, and it's Jason Standridge to come in.
Get a look at Ken Griffey Jr. coming in, trying to make the diving attempt on this ball off the bat of Jeremy Burnitz. He just kind of pushes it out in front of himself. The ball gets away a lot further than he expected. Michael Barrett's not sure whether to go or not. He sees the ball on the ground and just kind of jogs it over to third base. I mean, after Junior found the ball, he picked it up and lollipopped it back into the infield. Felipe Lopez, the shortstop, dropped the ball. It rolled across the infield dirt for quite a while. That's why you always go hard to the next base. Run hard until the coach tells you to stop. Michael Barrett may have had a chance to score as that throw back into the infield got away from Lopez.
For Eric Milton, as you see the numbers for Jason Standridge, this is the 12th time this year in 21 starts he has not gone 6 innings. And that really taxes your bullpen when one of your horses can't get you at least 6 innings. And it's the 3rd time in this series that a Red starter has not gone beyond 4 innings. So 4 innings plus for Milton today. And boy, if you're Jerry Narron, you are going over to Aaron Harang and thanking him over and over and over again that he went 9 last night.
Well, Standridge pitched in the first 2 games of this series, an inning in the 3rd in game 1. Pitched another inning in game 2. Yeah, if Harang does not throw up a complete game last night, the Reds are in serious bullpen trouble today.
This is not the first go-around, by the way, for Jerry Narron as a major league manager, former Texas Rangers manager. Cedeno swings and misses to make it 1-2. So 3rd major league season as a manager for Narron. What is it about these former catchers? They become managers.
It's because they got hit in the mask with too many foul tips. That's what it is.
Yeah, managers and broadcasters. Fouled off by Cedeno.
It just seems like everything you do as a catcher lends itself well to running a ball club. You have to handle a pitching staff. You have to position your defense. You have to know every play defensively, offensively. To be a little bit of a psychologist, be able to work an umpire. And just a little crazy. Sometimes a lot crazy helps.
Good job by Ronnie to hang in there against Standridge. You know, the Reds have made a lot of changes to a very disappointing start this year in May. They designated D'Angelo Jimenez for assignment. Paul Wilson went on the DL. Was lost for the season. Danny Graves was cut. Talked about Austin Kearns in June. Was demoted. Then Dave Miley was fired. Along with Don Gullett, the pitching coach. Another 1-2 little tapper. Burnitz caught up between 2nd and 3rd. Luckily, Standridge didn't see it, and he throws out Cedeno. If Standridge had turned around, he would have gotten Burnitz caught between 2nd and 3rd. I think Jeremy just assumed that Barrett was going to be running.
And you'll see Burnitz at the top of the screen, breaks right away on contact. Barrett's holding up at 3rd base. Standridge goes to 1st all the way. And once again, look where Adam Dunn is, right in the middle of the base. Now, granted, he's a big guy. And if anybody can defend 1st base, it would be Adam Dunn. But there's a potential for a serious collision down there at some point in this ball game. He's got that foot right in the middle of the base.
Well, Maddux on deck and 1st base open. And always a sign of respect, even though he's a number 8 hitter. But Matt Merton, we mentioned it, is 5 for 6 in this series, so they'd rather load him up and go after the pitcher than pitch to Merton.
You know, and this may change later in the season or later in his career when teams have a better idea of what Matt Merton's all about and what his strengths and weaknesses are. But for a guy that you don't know anything about, who's 5 for his last 6, you're not going to take any chances at all. Just put him on base, go after the pitcher.
you are near a computer, you can email us, Glenn and Bob at Comcast Sportsnet, brought to you by Coors Light. Got an email from Anthony in Crown Point, Indiana. What do you guys do during your free time? Well, Anthony, we watch every baseball game we can. The ones we don't watch, we tape. When we're not watching baseball, we're on the computer, checking out what's going on around baseball.
Baseball, baseball, baseball.
24 hours a day.
Sometimes we just go to the local sandlot and watch the kids play baseball.
Cornermen in. They're back up the middle, and Maddux trying to stay out of the double play, but he cannot. Now the Cubs had him at second and third with no outs, but failed to score. They still lead, however, 5-3.
Time now for the Pontiac Sports Night Update.
Good afternoon, Pat Boyle back in our Comcast Sportsnet studios in downtown Chicago. Tonight at U.S. Cellular, the club with the best record in baseball hosts the World Series champion Red Sox. White Sox hurler Mark Burley, 4-1 with a 3.32 ERA lifetime against Boston. He'll be opposed by former Cub Matt Clement. You can see that game right here on Comcast Sportsnet beginning at 7 o'clock. But now back to Len and Bob in Cincinnati.
Pat, thank you very much. Eric Milton has made 2 starts against the Cubs this year. He's gone a total of 9 innings and has allowed 22 hits. That's a lot of hits.
That's a lot of hits. It's a lot of noise from the Cubs bats. However, the Cubs have left 7 runners on base through the first 5 innings. You hope that doesn't come back to haunt him. It's hard to fault Greg Maddux for hitting into a double play there. He got a good pitch to hit it hard, unfortunately, right at the shortstop.
So the Cubs unable to get a run in the 5th inning, but still with a 2-run lead. Now, Milton allowed 11 hits in 5 innings at Wrigley on April 26th. 11 hits today in 4 innings. Lopez with the bunt, and it's a single.
Boy, it's hard not to be impressed what we've seen from Felipe Lopez in this series. He's played a very steady defense at shortstop. He swung the bat well, hit the ball to all fields, and just a perfectly executed drag bunt there. Saw Maddux leaning toward third base, anticipating. When he saw Lopez show bunt, he was anticipating he was going to go to the third base side. His first movement was just a slight feint toward third base, and by the time he recovered, Lopez was able to beat it out.
Griffey bounces it foul. You think about some of the guys getting into the primes of their careers in the National League, switch hitting shortstops. Rafael Percal, Cesar Asturias, Jimmy Rollins, now Felipe Lopez, a first-time All-Star this year. He has been impressive. He's shown power and seen speed. Terrific bunt.
A good chance you're going to see that speed again here. Most teams try to run against Greg Maddux whenever possible when they get that right combination of speed on the bases, and trailing by 2 runs, you got to figure Lopez is going to try to get himself into scoring position at some point in this at bat.
Another young guy in that mold, Jose Reyes, switch hitter. Two strikes on Griffey, and Maddux will throw over to first. His last strikeout was against Javier Valentine in the 2nd inning. He has 3 today. 2,997 for his career. Lopez on the move, fly to left. Merton heading straight in. 1 out.
Take a look at how Maddux went about working to Ken Griffey Jr. First pitch sinker right down the middle. That's his standard MO. Then a changeup off the plate away. That changeup, he scoots it out another 6 or 8 inches off of the outside corner. You have to be careful with off-speed pitches to Ken Griffey Jr. because he's got such great plate coverage. He can reach out and hook the ball back to right field. So that time Maddux threw him one changeup on the outside corner, then scooted the next one over about 6 or 8 inches. Got the lazy fly ball to left.
Kearns with 2 hits. His average had been at 224 since June 12th because he'd been in the minor leagues. Moved up 9 points tonight. Runner moving again. Another fly ball. Lopez almost to second. Burnett's with the catch. Lopez able to get back in plenty of time. Comes the big shift.
And Michael Barrett alerting Greg Maddux as to where the defenders are.
Dunn grounded out to the right of second base in the first inning, but it was a shortstop Cedeno throwing him out. Yeah, it's funny, you know, the shortstop, second baseman, they give each other the signs on who's going to cover second in a case of a stolen base. And Cedeno giving the sign to Todd Walker. My guess is it'd be a little difficult for Todd Walker to cover second base at the moment.
Just a habit.
Yeah. 1-1 to Dunn. Fouled away.
You know, teams have always used defensive shifts. There used to be the Ted Williams shift. There's been many other hitters in the history of the game who had a exaggerated defensive shift like this. But I think the biggest difference lately is the second baseman's depth. Not only do they shift over closer to the hole between first and second, but you can clearly see he's playing 20 feet out into right field. Because the ball hit the Todd Walker right there. He's going to have plenty of time to throw Dunn out at first base.
Lopez on the move. Dunn strikes out. Number 4 for Maddux. Just 2 away from the milestone. 5-3 Cubs. Monday, July 25th, 80s night at Wrigley Field with Deborah Gibson, brought to you by Comcast Sportsnet. Deborah Gibson will perform the national anthem, the 7th inning stretch. Hey, 80s memorabilia will be given away throughout the game. Thanks again to Comcast Sportsnet. Little Dire Straits. Money for nothing. I saw Mark Knopfler last week. The Auditorium Theater. It was what a great show he put on.
That ain't working.
So top of the order here in the 6th. Get the riff a little later.
Yeah, good part was just coming up there.
Hairston 1 for 3 on the afternoon. Cubs had a golden chance to get some more in the 5th. 2nd and 3rd, no outs, but Jason Standridge came on and got out of it. There he comes on a 1-0. No problem for Lopez. One out. Todd Walker 2 for 3 with a 3-run homers last time up.
Here's a look at that 3-run bomb back in the 4th. It's kind of a nothing fastball out over the plate, mid-thighs. Todd reached out there and hooked it back to right field.
Outside corner for a strike on Todd Walker. We were having a little fun with the email question a little earlier about what we do in our free time, but I guess we would say we don't have as much free time on the road as people might think. And I know you stay pretty close to the hotel and the ballpark. You'll take nice long walks in different cities. You know, you go to a nice restaurant here or there if you have the opportunity, but a lot of times it's hotel, ballpark, and back to the hotel.
Order up a late night pizza, watch the West Coast game when we're on this side of the country. That's why you take the long walks in the morning to work off the late night pizza.
Yeah, I saw you were over in that area the other day, and you were like, okay, how do I get back?
I didn't want to swim back either.
1-2 to Walker. Popped up. Frio with a better angle on it than Valentine.
You can see a lot of interesting things, you know, especially back here on the East Coast or Midwest and East Coast. Walking over in Newport, Kentucky yesterday, I saw the home of Brigadier General John Thompson, the inventor of the Thompson submachine gun. And like a lot of weapons, it was invented for use by the military, but unfortunately became the weapon du jour of the gangsters, Al Capone and all his buddies. And Brigadier General John Thompson forever regretted inventing the Thompson machine gun because of what it became identified with later. Said that right on the plaque.
It was a Warren Zevon had a song, right? Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner.
There you go.
Right? The Gunner. Okay. So you learn a little something.
Yeah.
Here in Cincinnati.
Exercise and education at the same time.
I understand Carlos Lee has an RBI today early. Brewers with 2 runs in the first inning in St. Louis. So the 2 Lees tied for the RBI lead in the National League with 78. Albert Pujols with 77. Two with 2 outs on Lee. The next pitch, he struck him out swinging. And the Cubs go down 1-2-3. In fact, first time today, they have sent just 3 men to the plate. Mark Knopfler. That great riff. 5-3 Cubs.
Look at that, yo-yos. That's the way you do it.
After the game, stick around for Cubs Postgame Live presented by Joe's Crab Shack. Get highlights of all the action and analysis from Dan Plesac. Don't miss Cubs Postgame Live immediately following the game right here on Comcast Sportsnet. Well, Greg Maddux 2 strikeouts away from 3,000, but he is done today. Went 5 innings through just 71 pitches. Not sure if he just was gassed on this hot day or not, but Michael Wirtz is on for the Cubs here in the 6th inning. So Maddux 2 strikeouts away from 3,000. His next scheduled start Tuesday night at home against the San Francisco Giants. And this half inning of Cubs baseball brought to you by Robert Morris College, real college for the real world. Maddux with a chance for his 314th win.
And as we've said many times in the telecast today and throughout the season, and as Greg Maddux has said himself, the most important thing is winning a ball game. 2-run lead here in the bottom of the 6th, and the scheduled hitters for the Reds this inning: Rich Aurilia 2 for 2 against Maddux today with a home run. Willie Mopena scored a run after reaching on a fielder's choice, and Javier Valentine with a home run. So maybe Dusty Baker, Greg Maddux both thought that it was time to go to a different arm out there on the mound. The guys coming up for the Reds that had some pretty good swings against Maddux today.
Well, Maddux with a chance to get number 3,000 at home, which isn't such a bad thing. And of course, last year picked up his 300th win on the road in San Francisco. So he'll face the Giants in his next start. Aurilia strikes out.
Good fastball, good location on the fastball. Kneecaps right on the outside corner. Tough pitch to handle. Even if you put that ball in play, it's going to be weakly right at somebody.
And baseball historians all across the nation right now trying to find out if anyone ever got their 300th win and 3,000th strikeout against the same team. Because Maddux will have that opportunity. Works with a 1-0 pitch.
Oh, with Maddux coming out of the game, I thought you were going to say baseball historians all around the country are now going out to mow their lawns.
No, their work is never done. Cubs bullpen struggled last night. 6 runs in 5 innings. After Kerry Wood left early.
Wirtz was one of those pitchers last night. He only threw a third of an inning. The one guy he faced was Willie Mo Pena. Struck him out with a slider down low and away.
Michael has worked on quickening his delivery a little bit. Swing and a miss, so he strikes out Pena again today. So there you have it, the 2 strikeouts Greg Maddux needed.
Fastball off the plate away. Pena, very undisciplined hitter. How many is Michael Wirtz behind Maddux now?
A lot.
A lot.
Valentine with a 2-run homer in the 4th inning. Yeah, Michael has worked with Larry Rothschild again on quickening that delivery and being more aggressive. Another one hit high and deep by Valentine. And a 2-homer performance. Man, is he hot. He had 2 home runs Sunday that did not start Monday or Tuesday. Last night, he had a home run. He has 2 today. It's 5-4. When you think of this Reds lineup and guys who can really hurt you, his name would not be at the top of the list, but it is this week.
Jerry Naren's going to have his hands full keeping this guy out of the lineup. It's obvious that the Reds and Jerry Naren like Jason LaRue behind the plate a lot. If you get that kind of production, it's going to be tough to keep that young man on the bench.
Jacob Cruz will pinch hit. Career 2-homer game for Valentine. 2 have been in the last 5 days. And Cruz strikes out. Good slider from Michael Wirtz. Strikes out 3 in the inning. Valentine with a home run. It's now 5-4.
Post-game live, presented by Joe's Crab Shack. Get complete analysis from Dan Plesac and hear what Dusty Baker says during his post-game remarks. Cubs Post-game live, presented by Joe's Crab Shack after the Cubs game on Comcast Sportsnet.
Don't miss the Cubs take on the Diamondbacks Friday, July 29th at 1:20 on Kraft Foods Day at Wrigley Field. Fans have a chance to win gift packages, compliments of Kraft Foods. Kraft Foods, proud sponsor of the Chicago Cubs. Javier Valentine, we mentioned, with 3 career 2-homer games. His first multi-homer game was at Wrigley Field, July 22nd of last year. So almost a year to the day. And both long balls came against Greg Maddux. Well, one of his 2 home runs today off Maddux, the other one off Michael Wirtz. Todd Coffey on here in the 7th. 5-4 Cubs.
We saw Coffey in the first game of the series, pitching an inning and 2/3, gave up 4 base hits and a run. A little reminiscent of John Rocker, the way he sprints in from that bullpen like a runaway train.
Ramirez to center. Griffey back to the warning track, and what a catch. That is a Gold Glove play from Ken Griffey Jr. Ramirez really gave it a ride.
Boy, the ability to make adjustments. Ramos thought he got all of this ball. He's posing a little bit there at home plate, then starts jogging to first. Junior changed directions a couple of times, turned his back on the ball at one point. He's able to recover and make the catch right up against that center field fence at the 4:04 mark.
Well, you sure feel like the Cubs are going to need some more runs here today. At one point, they had a 5-1 lead, but the Reds, no, Javier Valentine hit 2 home runs to make it 5-4. In the hole, Lopez with the throw. Dunn came off first to go get it. And it's a hit for Barrett, his second today.
Barrett puts this ball in a real good spot. Hard sinker down and in, swings over the top of it, but chases Lopez deep into that hole, and no chance to get Michael at first base. The throw did pull Dunn off the bag, but I don't believe they would have had him anyway. And if you've never seen Todd Coffey before, very unusual in that he comes up into his set position, and to check on the runner at first base, he looks over his right shoulder rather than his left shoulder. Pitches out of a very closed stance, and it's easier for him to look over his right shoulder. You can see that zipper down the inside of his right elbow.
Hit hard, and nice play by Aurilia, but he flipped it away from Lopez. Just tried to go from glove to glove, and the Cubs with 2 men on. We'll have to take a look again. It's going to be a hit for Burnett. Did he have time? It looked like he had time to go to the throwing hand, but he tried to make a fancy play, and it cost him.
Well, you know, a middle infielder leaves his feet like that. It seems like mentally you ought to tell yourself, I'm conceding the double play. There's no way we're going to get 2. I had to leave my feet to die for this ball. Let's make sure and get that lead runner. But Aurilia tried to make the backhanded glove-to-glove toss and got hung up in the webbing of his glove and just flipped it over on the left side of the infield.
Action in the Reds pen. Brian Shackelford, a lefty. And again, we assume David Weathers is not available again. He left the game the other night, 2 nights ago, with lower back strain. We have not yet seen Kent Merker in action in this series. Valentine didn't know where it was at first, but it was in front of him.
Valentine with a feeble effort there to block that ball in the dirt. It was very fortunate for the Reds that ball didn't get past. He just kind of waved backhanded at it, and the ball looked like it hit him on the inside of the right thigh. Turned his head and everything. That's not the kind of form you like to see out of your catcher behind the plate. Maybe that's why he's not playing as much as he should based on the way he's swinging the bat.
Well, to Cedeno, fly to right. Kearns backpedaling. He has it. Barrett tags and ends up at third. And they're at the corners with 2 down. Another solid day for Matt Merton. A walk, a single, and a run, and then an intentional walk. And nobody in the on-deck circle right now for the Cubs.
Todd Hollinsworth standing down there in the shadows. Nathan Perez now making his way up to the stairs with a helmet on.
Maybe another switch-hitting shortstop in the National League. The day off thus far, but you get a pinch hit appearance here in this inning. If Merton can keep it alive, Will Omen, the lefty, is up. I wasn't trying to slight Napey earlier in the discussion, talking more about younger switch-hitting shortstops. Inside corner strike. Good heat at 93 from Coffey. 1-1. Returns have been very positive thus far for Matt Merton in just his 6th major league start. And he's gotten a lot of chances to play because the Cubs have faced a lot of left-handed starters lately.
The Cubs have not run much on the bases lately either, but this perhaps would be a situation where Jeremy Burnitz may try to break over there at first base, draw a throw at second.
Called strike 3. Merton, well, it might have been outside, but Larry Vanover called it a strike. 7th inning stretch time, 5-4 Cubs. 5-4 Cubs, last of the 7th, and Michael Wirtz is going to try to get through another inning, working in relief of Greg Maddux. A lot of people looking for relief today. It's a hot one here in Cincinnati, and got a call from Ed Hardig, Cubs historian, and he looked it up, and we're talking about Greg Maddux facing the Giants next week. No pitcher has won his 300th and struck out his 3,000th against the same team.
So now you know.
So now we know. I knew Ed would know. Top of the order for the Reds. Friel, Lopez, and Griffey against Wirtz. Michael gave up a home run in the 6th. He struck out the other 3 hitters he faced. Right center, and Burnitz won't be able to get to it before it lands.
Not that it makes any difference on a given day, but the Giants have the fewest strikeouts offensively of any team in the National League.
Dusty Baker is coming out, but he's heading toward the home plate umpire, Larry Vanover, so double switch time. We talk so much, Bob, about momentum, and right now the Reds clearly have it in this game. And it's not just the runs they have scored. We talked about that 5th inning when the Cubs could not get a run home after getting the first 2 men into scoring position. And this is a big test here for the bullpen. Trying to get the final 9 outs with a 1-run lead. Ford called to the pen. Ullman coming in. Perez as well to play short. We'll be back. Well, Napey didn't get a chance to pinch hit in the top of this inning, but he will lead off the 8th inning in the 9th spot. Will Ullman is on to do the pitching. Put in the 7th spot in the lineup. Runner at first is Friel with very good speed. Lopez at the plate, and I wonder if part of the thought here was with Friel at first get a left-handed pitcher in there. Now, of course, you want Ullman facing Griffey next, but you turn Lopez around. He's much better from the left side than the right as well.
He's 100 points better from the left side of the plate. So this serves a few different purposes here. Hopefully you hold Friel over there at first, turn Lopez around to his weaker side, and then you have the lefty in the game to face Griffey.
Pitch is high. Lopez, 25 years old. Squares to bunt, and looks at ball 2, 2-1. Roberto Novoa getting ready.
And just a guess on my part, but I wouldn't think we would see Novoa until you get down to Rich Aurelia's spot. And the reason I say that is you obviously want Ullman in there on Ken Griffey Jr. Then you've got Austin Kearns, a right-handed hitter following Griffey Jr., but he's so hot today, seeing the ball so well, I don't think it makes any difference whether you have a righty or a lefty on Kearns. But then you'd also have the lefty to face Adam Dunn after Austin Kearns. Pick-off attempt at first base here. That little thumb flip by Michael Barrett. It doesn't mean knock the hitter down. Used to. Most teams use that as a sign for the pickoff attempt at first base. Slider.
2-1 with Friel running in the throw to nobody covering second. And Friel ends up at third. I don't know what happened, but it cannot happen. Barrett did all he could. He threw to second, and there was nobody there to accept the throw.
Boy, and that is a bad error on Michael Barrett. That's a personal thing and a selfish thing, but when a catcher makes a throw right over the base and nobody breaks to cover, how can that be an error on the catcher? Now, we saw the sign for a slider, and usually with a left-handed slider to a right-handed hitter, you want your shortstop to stay home because he's probably going to hit that ball to the left side. Normally, that would be the second baseman's cover right there. But Walker never really broke at all for second base, and Nafee was very late.
Infield in, 2-2 to Lopez, and it's in the dirt. And for the Cubs, their 9th error their last 8 games. But I agree with you. The error goes to the catcher, but that's not his fault.
Boy, and that is the kind of mental mistake that, you know, a team trying to work their way into wild card contention, you just can't make those kind of mistakes.
3-2 to Lopez. Right side, knocked down by Lee. Only good news is Friel held up. Lopez reaches. Not the worst thing in the world because the runner at third held up. But first and third, nobody out. And an error on Lee. So 2 errors in the inning.
And it looked like with the naked eye that Derek may have taken his eye off that ball just for a second to try to get a glimpse as to whether Friel was running from third base on that high chopper. He's able to knock it down, keep it in front right there. Todd Walker picks it up quickly as Friel has to hold at third base.
Well, you'd have loved to have gotten it out there because then you could have possibly walked Griffey to set up a double play. Although you have the matchup I guess you want with Ullman against Griffey. We'll see how the Cubs set it up defensively. Looks like they might concede a run if they can get a double play. First and third, no outs. Cubs hanging on by their fingernails right now. Griffey went, strike one. And the 0-1. Ullman wanted it. Tell by the body language, 1-1.
Well, Griffey, much like Adam Dunn, a guy that doesn't hit into a lot of double plays because he hits a lot of fly balls. Has that loft swing, gets the ball in the air more often than on the ground.
Runs to this point via the home run. They've hit 3 today. Aurilia with 1, Valentine with 2. Ullman's 2-1.
If Ullman loses Ken Griffey Jr., we probably will see Naveau at that point to face Kearns with the bases loaded. Can't worry about Adam Dunn at that point. You have to worry about the hitter at the plate.
Good slider, 3-2. Biggest pitch of the game to this point coming up. 3-2, first and third, nobody out. Time called at the plate. See if Lopez is running from first. He is not. Fouled away. For the Reds thinking, worst case scenario, if Griffey strikes out, you don't want that guy to get thrown out at second. All of a sudden, 2 outs in the inning as they try to tie this one up.
And they've got their hottest hitter in the lineup in the on-deck circle. They want to definitely give him a chance to swing the bat with runners on base.
Because even a double play would tie it. Another 3-2, and they are loaded. Boy, when Ullman missed in that at bat, he didn't miss by much. Griffey patient. And there are 3 men on, and here comes Dusty. When you think about this inning for Will Ullman, he had the stolen base and the throwing error, nobody covering second, allowing Creel to get to third, and then an error. They normally sure-handed Derek Lee. The walk to Griffey, and all of a sudden the bases are loaded. Ford called to the pen. Roberto Novoa coming in. We'll be back. Now Will Ullman walking Ken Griffey to load the bases. And Roberto Novoa called on here in the 7th, and this is a very tight spot. Bases loaded, no outs. And you mentioned it, Austin Kearns hit .342 at AAA in 28 games. Back in the big leagues, and he's 2 for 3 today. And again, it looks like the Cubs up the middle. The force at every base. They would take the double play. And the thought here is, even if you give up the tying run, just try to limit the damage. Just try to get some outs. Cornermen in. And a pitch to Kearns. Ball 1. And of course, you have to throw strikes in this spot. There's a bouncer to Ramirez. He will throw to the plate, and the relay throw not in time. Very close at first. Derek Lee's convinced. Jim Wolf with a call. Dusty's going to come out. That was very close, to be honest with you. I thought they had him.
Boy, it sure looked like it with the naked eye. Just the timing of the play with the runner and Derek Lee receiving that throw from Michael Barrett. Man. When Novoa gets what he's looking for here, a ground ball to one of the corners, you can see Ramirez charges, gets his momentum going toward home. Friel, the runner. That's a good call. Good call. Kearns did beat it down there. You could see Friel coming into the play. Watch him go after Michael Barrett there. That's breaking up a double play, just like you do in the middle of the infield.
Yeah, you're right. He was there. So Jim Wolf all over that call at first.
I mentioned earlier, Dunn is a tough guy to get to hit into a double play. He's only grounded into 2 all year. Take one more look at Ryan Friel coming into the plate, getting after Michael Barrett. Watch the guys in the background. They think they've got an out at first base. Dusty frustrated, going to come out and argue, but as we saw clearly by the replay, Jim Wolf made the proper call.
Now the other thing you think about here, and you have a strikeout pitcher and a hitter with a penchant for strikeouts as well. This would be a big spot for a punch out, and time called. Barrett's going to head out and chat with his pitcher. 1 strike on Adam Dunn.
We don't want any mistakes here at all. Napier and Aramis coming to the mound to help translate for Michael Barrett, Roberto Novoa, just to make sure they've got their signals straight. You don't want to cross up, risk a wild pitch pass ball right here.
With an offense like this Cincinnati offense, kind of an all or nothing proposition, this inning could go a lot of different ways. Novoa trying to find a way to get out of it. And 2 strikes on Dunn.
Numbers not that great with the bases loaded for Adam Dunn in his career.
He can't believe it. Napier's going to head in. Smart move by the veteran just to say forget about it. Doesn't matter now.
Boy, it's understandable. I'm not sure where this ball missed. Ooh. Right on the corner. Boy, I'll tell you what, Roberto Novoa needs to learn not to do that.
The 1-2, and it's even.
There are umpires in this league that will rip off that mask and say, well, you thought that was bad. You know, throw 3 more right there. I'll call them balls too. Falls under the category of showing up an umpire, and they do not like that.
2-2 to Dunn. You got him! So Novoa with a huge strikeout. 1 out away from escaping.
The 20th time in his career Adam Dunn has struck out with the bases loaded. Well, I think he got fortunate on the pitch 2 before.
Rich Aurilia with 2 outs. Strike 1.
Rich Aurilia likes to guess in certain counts. He will be a good breaking ball hitter if you throw a breaking ball for a strike. Keep that slider off the outside corner. This is with a fastball away that time. Constantly looking to hit a fastball, but if he gets a count where he guesses breaking ball, he can hit that pitch as well.
still not out of the woods here in the 7th inning. Aurilia with 2 hits, including a home run today. And Hairston makes a catch! What a play by Hairston! And Novoa gets out of it. Some shaky defense to start this inning by the Cubs, but what a play! 5-4. What a 7th inning, and this is how it ended.
Great effort by Jerry Hairston Jr. Got a late break on the ball, but made up for it at the end. The diving catch. Wow, talk about a momentum shift. The Reds appeared to have the Cubs on the ropes right there. Novoa didn't get the call on Adam Dunn on what he thought should have been a strike 3. Came back to strike him out anyway, and then Aurelia's bid for a base hit and a couple of RBIs stolen away by the diving catch by Jerry Hairston.
So the hope now is that the Cubs offense can get some more runs. They have a 1-run lead. Yeah, that was only the 7th inning. 6 outs to go for the Cubs. But when you give Hairston a ton of credit, Roberto Novoa, for getting out of it. He came on with the bases loaded, no outs, and did not give up a run.
Boy, and you're right. That inning started in an ugly, ugly fashion. Real reaching, steals second base. Nobody covers second base. The ball goes into center field for an error on Michael Barrett. And Derek Lee with a rare error at first base. A walk to Ken Griffey Jr. You got to work your way through the middle of the Reds lineup, and they were able to do it without a run. And we have 2 innings to go.
First at bat for Navy today. Greg Maddux, if you joined us late, started, went 5 innings, struck out 4, which leaves him 2 strikeouts shy of 3,000. Fly ball down the right field line. Kearns will make the catch. And a good hand for Hairston from the Cubs fans here in the ballpark today. He's still, learning the position in center field. He's been an infielder his whole life. Last year with the Orioles played the outfield, and now in center for the Cubs with Corey Patterson back in the minor leagues. Terrific athlete, known as a very good defensive second baseman, and you can see the athleticism, and just got a great jump. Right off the bat, I got to be honest, I assumed that Aurilia flare was going to drop. Just didn't look like Hairston was going to be able to get to it, but what a diving catch. And sometimes that's how an inning can go. You work so hard to put yourself on the brink of getting out of the inning, and then a guy just flares one, dunks it into a gap to tie it up, or in the case of Aurilia, probably would have given the Reds the lead. So not only did it save the lead for the Cubs, it probably would have given the Reds the advantage.
And you'd like to think it'd be a momentum shifter as well. You'd like to see the Cubs come up here offensively and another point or 2 on the board.
Rolled to Lopez, it's short, and Hairston thrown out. There's some plays that are hard to quantify as far as how many runs did it save ultimately. I mean, that was a 2-run play. Instead of being down 6-5, you're still up 5-4, and if that ball gets by Hairston, who knows?
And of course, you never know what the following hitters would do either. You can try, the inning continues. You give another Red or 2 an opportunity to swing the bat. I mean, Valentine was 2 hitters away there after Willie Mopena. We know what he's done today.
Oh, that's right. He's got a hit again today, right? Good. The last runs scored by the Cubs were as a result of the 3-run homer hit by Walker back in the 4th inning. There are times you can look at a box score and see a team that has lost a game 8-6 and say, well, it wasn't the offense's fault because they scored 6 runs. And while that is, I think, generally true, there are some times when you score a lot of runs early and you have a lead and then you don't add on. That's very frustrating for a manager. And the Cubs want to avoid that fate today. I don't want you to have to relive some bad memories, but I'm sure there were times where your team would get up 5-6-1. You go to the bullpen early, you just feel that momentum shift, and then your team just can't get any more runs for whatever reason. That is a frustrating feeling.
It really is. They just seem to go flat offensively, and certainly a lot of the credit has to be given to the opposing bullpen when they're able to hold your offense down like that. But
Cue shot to short, barehanded by Lopez, and a good play. Ends up face down on the turf after the throw. The ball was snaking along out towards short. He might be injured. Then he gets up 5-4 Cubs.
Now for the Cadillac Sports Night Update.
Good afternoon, Pat Boyle back at our Comcast Sportsnet studios in downtown Chicago. The NHL Players Association will hold a press conference today following the outcome of the players' ratification vote on that new collective bargaining agreement. You can see that press conference in its entirety right here on Comcast Sportsnet after the game. But now, back to Len and Bob Ballpark.
Wait a minute, they've switched spots. Wasn't he on the left before? The paint's still working, though.
yeah, that must be the kind of paint they use like on appliances and stuff that's heat resistant. I thought that would have melted a long time ago.
Willie Montpena against Roberto Novoa. 5-4 Cubs, bottom of the 8th. Ground back, 2 strikes. A lot going on today here in Cincinnati. Still a long way to go, but if it holds up, Maddux would get the win. He would also end up with a game-winning RBI. He had the go-ahead hit in the 4th inning to make it 2-1. Heading down the river. Shot through the hole. That's the thing about the 7th inning. There's a leadoff single by Ryan Friel. It was the only hit the Reds had that inning. Here he is. Javier Valentine. 2 home runs his last 2 times up.
Change up down and in. Skyscraper home run to right field. Second home run a little further around to right center, every bit as high as the first one. He's very quick inside, little short arms. He stands close to the plate, and if you try to come in on him, you better make sure you get it in there because he's very quick. He can keep that ball fair down the right field line.
3 home runs his last 4 at-bats in this series. Sean Casey is on deck. The pitch. 3-0. Mets blasted the Padres at Shea 12-0 today. A final.
Of course, Jake Peavy starting that game for the Padres.
Dempster is up in the bullpen.
There's a chance should Valentine reach base here that Jerry Narron could possibly pull Sean Casey back and send up Ray Olmedo instead to put down a bunt.
Jake Peavy got knocked around 5 innings, 7 runs, 7 hits. Kazi Shi got the win for the Mets. He's 3-8. Peavy is 8-4. They're suffering the defeat. Brewers leading at St. Louis 5-0 in the 4th inning. Valentine walks. First 2 men are on. More trouble for the Cubs bullpen here in the 8th inning.
Casey's already made his way up to the plate, but he has not been announced yet. Jerry Narron calling him back. I think he's going to send Olmedo up there to put down a sacrifice bunt right here and save Casey possibly for another at bat later in the ball game. Casey was real anxious to get in that batter's box. Almost ran up there from the on-deck circle. Mark Berry, the third base coach, had to wave him back to the bench.
Of course, once you're announced, that's it. So if Casey had been announced, he would have had to hit, or if he had come out, wouldn't have been able to participate.
Yeah, there's a very definite protocol when a hitter, for example, Casey right there, even though he had walked up to the plate and was almost in the batter's box, the umpire will look at the manager will point at the player, and only then is that guy officially in the ball game. I mean, there have been instances just like that where Casey walks up to the plate and the PA announcer may announce it to the stadium, but if the umpire hasn't received notification from the manager, it's not official.
Bunted by Olmedo. Gonna be a tough play. Barrett with a throw. Just got him. Cubs were staring at another bases loaded situation, but a nice play by Michael on the sac bunt by Olmedo.
Just a perfect bunt out there. Really, Michael Barrett, the only guy that has a play on this ball. Ramos Ramirez was waiting to read the play to see whether he should retreat to third base. He ends up in no man's land. Novoa couldn't get there. And a nice play and a nice sell over there at first base by Todd Walker. Caught that ball and came off the bag as if it was an easy out at first.
All right, Sean, now you're up. Can Novoa do it again? He escaped in the 7th. Second and third, 1 out. See the infield alignment. Here's a pitch. Ball 1. Dodgers with a 1-0 lead in the 9th at Philadelphia. There's been a lot of drama here today, hasn't there?
A lot of drama, and it hasn't stopped yet.
Outside, 2-0. The on-deck hitter is Felipe Lopez.
Well, we know Mike Remlinger pitched 2 innings last night in the ball game, so he is probably unavailable today. Glendon Rush pitched an inning in the 3rd as well, because if you had one more left-hander to use, this would be the situation to bring him in to face Sean Casey, turn Lopez around to the right side where he's considerably weaker, and then Ken Griffey Jr. after Lopez if you get that far. We know Novoa has been Dusty's go-to guy late in the ball game to set it up for Dempster, so he's going to stick with his right-hander.
Kick and the 2-1 pitch, 3-1.
here is not the worst thing. You don't want to come right down Main Street on Sean Casey and give him a cookie that he can drive into the gap somewhere. If you do happen to lose him on a base on balls here, it does set up a potential double play.
Count on Casey. Pena the runner at third. Valentine is out at second. And a balk has been called on Novoa, and the game is tied. It's 5-5. Still 3-2 on Casey. Valentine now at third. And the infield in. Here's a pitch. And a walk.
See what Novoa does here. Michael Barrett went through the series of signs with the runner at second base. Casey's just still digging in. There he started. You saw him come up with the upper body and then stop. Once you start your movement, you have to continue or immediately break contact with the rubber with your right foot before doing anything else. But Novoa started up and then stopped.
No argument from the Cubs. So Jose Macias has come in to play second. Going to go with the closer right now in a tie game. Ford called to the pen, first and third for the Reds with one out in the eighth. Well, Roberto Novoa got out of a bases-loaded no-out jam in the seventh inning. Here in the eighth, walking in the tying run. A little hitch. And that was it.
Well, there's really nothing you could even argue there. It was very obvious what he had done. He'd started up and then stopped. Jose Macias comes in as part of a double switch. He'll play second base and bat in the seventh spot in the lineup. Ryan Dempster now on to pitch. He'll hit in the second spot. Dempster looking for a ground ball double play here to escape further damage in the bottom of the eighth inning.
Well, a couple of very high stress innings for the Cubs bullpen. A run in here in the eighth, first and third, one out. Cubs want a double play to get out of it. Felipe Lopez runs very well. And a pitch to him. Fastball misses. Ryan last worked Tuesday night. A scoreless ninth. No decision today for Greg Maddux. Went 5 innings. Right back to Dempster, off him. The throw's going to go to first, and now to second. Casey is safe. Now Casey wasn't really running at first as it was off Dempster. Ryan, of course, the ball goes off. You're just trying to get it out. He would have had a shot at Casey at second. As it is, 2 outs in the inning, so you just get one. That's all you really want. Casey stopped after the ball was hit to Dempster. So he wouldn't have had a double play opportunity either way.
I mean, they could have had the force at second on Casey. As you see, Valentine stays at third base. Dempster never checked the runner at second. Really, that was the only way they were going to be able to turn two, was to get the out at first on Lopez as quickly as possible and then hope you catch Casey before he gets to second base. If you throw to second to get the lead runner, Lopez beats it out at first.
So Griffey will be intentionally walked. This will be the 4th walk the last 2 innings. Is loaded, 2 outs. How's your stomach? Wow, this has been something the last 2 innings. Cubs are very fortunate right now to be in a tie.
I think this is the first time Austin Kearns has ever faced Ryan Dempster.
Base hit. Valentine is in. Casey right behind him. Going to be a play there, and it gets away as Barrett is bowled over by Casey. Griffey's going to be safe as he gets back to third. And it's 7-5. Austin Kearns, his first game back from the minors, comes up huge here in the 8th inning.
A hard hit ball right back up the middle. Hurston, a lot of momentum going, gets off a good throw to home plate, but it short hops Michael Barrett, who's trying to hang in there against Sean Casey. Casey does not run well. Better throw, or a better hop rather, to Michael Barrett. They've got a chance to get him there at the plate, but you'll see where this throw bounces on the dirt right in front of Michael Barrett. Took a bad hop up into his chest, wasn't able to hang on.
So Dunn will be walked. Three runs here in the 8th inning as the Reds have the lead for the 2nd time today, and they have erased a 5-1 deficit. This is the 2nd time this year the Cubs have had a 5-1 lead in this ballpark and have not been able to hold it. And the Reds have been a very good come-from-behind team. They have come back from deficits of 3 runs or more to win 13 times, the most in the major leagues. Larry Rothschild out, and the bases are full yet again.
Take one more look at that base hit. Neifi Perez, from his shortstop position, takes a real shallow line to this ball. You see him coming in and towards second base, and the ball just does get by. If he goes directly to his left along the edge of the outfield grass there, at least he'd be able to knock that ball down and limit the damage to only 1 run, but took a very shallow line and the ball got by him.
On April 18th, the Cubs had a 5-1 lead and ended up dropping a 7-6 decision. And now it's 7-5 here in the 8th. Strike 1 on Aurilia. It was robbed. And a great diving catch by Jerry Hairston to end the 7th. Now the only good news here is Derek Lee will lead off the 9th. Lee, Ramirez, and Barrett. Cubs are down 2, and Ryan Dempster trying to keep the Reds right where they are and give the Cubs an opportunity in the 9th. 2-2 on Aurilia. Well, the Reds have just suffocated the Cubs with base runners the last 2 innings. 9 base runners. Kick and the pitch. It's full. Spinning and fouled back by Aurilia.
How far out of the baseline Adam Dunn is at first base? If he were running from first to second, he'd be called out for going out of the baseline, but he's starting way back behind the baseline as he breaks to second base. See that happen with runners more often at second base, who will lead off behind the baseline to give themselves a better angle rounding third, but Dunn doing the same thing over at first base. He's a good 10 or 12 feet behind the baseline.
Still 3-2 on Aurilia, 9th hitter in this inning. Here comes Dempster. I have a shot here, just over our booth.
If we catch it, it's an out.
Yeah. Dempster really throwing hard. That one at 97. Tenth pitch coming up to Aurilia. It's on the way, another hit. Grippy scores, throw going to third, and Ramirez can't handle it. 2 runs in. 9-5. Kearns with a 2-run single, 2 batters ago, and then Aurilia with a long at bat. He knocks in 2. 5 big ones here in the inning for Cincinnati.
Just got to tip your cap to Rich Aurilia right there. Good long at bat, short quick swing to put that ball in play. And once again, it looked like the Cubs had a play on Dunn at third base, but Harrison's throw once again very similar to the one to Michael Barrett. A very tough short hop, hits just about a foot out in front of Aramis Ramirez. All he can do is just block it.
Started the inning with a single. Scored on the balk by Novoa to tie it. And the walks have been a killer in this inning, including the intentional walk to Grippy. 3 guys who walked ended up scoring. Sergio Mitre starting to throw.
With this one getting away, that's just to possibly come in and pick up Ryan Dempster here, save him some pitches in the event that he's needed tomorrow. already thrown 26 pitches here in the inning. He's only gotten one out, and that was the bullet line drive that hit off him out there on the mound. He was able to throw to first base to get Felipe Lopez.
In the American League, Toronto beats Seattle 6-3, and Cleveland all over the Royals 10-1. The Reds with 8 unanswered runs on a 9-5 lead. That almost hit Javier Valentine in the on-deck circle.
So Valentine stays in that on-deck circle. He's had a big day, a couple of home runs, 3 RBIs, drawn a walk. I want to see him again.
The exact number. I think over 60 pitches have been thrown by the Cubs the last 2 innings. That's the final one of the 8 as Pena strikes out. But the Reds get 5 runs to the 9th. It's 9-5. Check out the Feltco upcoming schedule at St. Louis coming up for 3 to end this trip, and then back home for a 7-game homestand that starts Monday night against the San Francisco Giants. We'll have that one for you right here on Comcast Sportsnet, 7 o'clock Central. All kinds of changes for the Cincinnati Reds. The most important one on the mound, Matt Belisle, is the pitcher. Let's see. We've got Aurilia at 3rd. Olmedo at 2nd. Sean Casey stays into play 1st. Adam Dunn goes out to left. This is not spring training by any stretch, but a ton of defensive changes for the Reds here in the 9th. And it feels that way right now.
Yeah, Willie Mopena made the last out there in the bottom half of the 8th inning, and the pitcher has been inserted into his spot in the lineup, that 7 hole, and musical chairs after that.
Well, Cubs hoping for rally time here in the 9th inning. Yeah, we added it up the last 2 innings, the 7th and the 8th. The Cubs bullpen threw upwards of 70 pitches. Very long innings. They got out of it in the 7th. Novoa did a great job, but then 5 runs in the 8th for the Reds. And you look at the last 2 games, the Cubs bullpen has given up too many runs. Today, 6 runs. And 6 runs last night as well. 3-0, so Derek Lee trying to start a rally here in the 9th. Danny Graves was designated, the Reds have used a closer by committee. That's a strike 3 and 2. This is not a save situation. Merker, Weathers, and Belisle all have saves since.
Derek does not like this called strike, and you can't blame him a bit. Javier Valentine reaching down below the knees to catch that ball.
And into center. Griffey with the running catch. Boy, you're right. That 3-1 looked way low, especially on a guy who's 6'5".
It's the kind of game where it would be real easy to say something on your way back to the dugout, but Eric just puts his heads down, runs back. Junior with another nice running catch. A little bit of a snow cone there. Almost came out of the glove.
Final is Philly Dodgers 1, Phillies nothing. One and one. And Ramirez hammers one deep to left, and a home run. His 25th. 9-6. Fourth home run of the series. And for the Cubs, 11 home runs in his 4-game series. For Ramirez, 6 home runs his last 7 games overall.
One of the fastest home runs we've seen in this series. A hanging breaking ball hit on a line. Our Heineken home run replay, just a bullet hit up there into the left field stands.
Dallas Perez got the win for the Dodgers. John Lieber, tough luck loser. He went 8 innings, gave up 1 run. It was the only run scored in that game. Almedo over to Casey. Cubs down to their final out. Well, they won the first 2 games of this series. Cincinnati won last night 9-3 and leading here today 9-6. They try to complete another big comeback. It would be their 14th win this year, in which they had erased a deficit of 3 or more runs. Ramirez with 6 home runs this year against the Reds. One to Burnitz. There goes the bat. The ball trickling toward third. Aurilia with the throw. And the Reds earn the split. Get a run in the 9th on the Ramirez home run, but the Cubs come up short. The final score, Cincinnati 9, Cubs 6. And our Hyundai player of the game, Austin Kearns. First game back from the minor leagues. He ended up with the go-ahead RBI hit, a 2-run single in the 8th inning.
A lot of stars for the Reds in the game today offensively, but Austin Kearns coming back from exile in AAA to lead them to a victory today.
Tough loss for the Cubs today, and standing by at our Comcast Sportsnet studios, Pat Boyle.
All right, Len, thank you. Dan Plesac and I will break down this difficult setback next on Joe's Crab Jack presents Cubs Postgame Live. It's a busy day right here on Comcast Sportsnet. Coming up, we'll carry the NHL Players Association press conference following the outcome of the players' ratification vote on a new CBA. Then tonight at 7, Mark Burley and the White Sox host the world champion Red Sox. We'll have a live preview from the cell a little bit later on. Plus, legendary actor Mr. T and Musa Muhammad will be live in studio on Chicago Tribune Live. That's at 5:30. But now back to Len Casper to wrap things up in Cincinnati.
Pat, thank you very much. Brian Shackelford with the win, his first major league win. Roberto Novoa takes the loss. He drops to 2-3. So for Bob Brenly and our entire crew here in Cincinnati, great work by Bob Albrecht, our producer and director, Tamara Anderson, our associate producer, Audrey Whitley, our stage manager, and our crew here in Cincinnati. Goodbye. Final score, Reds 9, Cubs 6. Our next Cubs telecast Monday night from Wrigley against the Giants, 7 o'clock Central Time. Stay tuned for Joe's Crab Shack postgame live. You've been watching Cubs baseball on Comcast Sportsnet. Valentine is in. Casey right behind him. Going to be a play there, and it gets away as Barrett is bowled over by Casey. Griffey's going to be safe as he gets back to third.
Oy vey. That was ugly to watch. 5 runs in the 8th inning did the Cubs in this afternoon. 9-6 is the final as the Reds earn a split in this 4-game series. Hi, welcome to Cubs Postgame Live, presented by Joe's Crab Shack. Alongside the quirky southpaw, Dan Plesac, I am Pat Boyle. Dan, you want to make the wild card. You have the bats going. You have a future Hall of Famer on the mound. You have a 5-1 lead. You cannot lose a game like you did today.
You know, we talked about this. We've talked about it for the last couple of weeks. It seems like when the Cubs take a couple of steps forward, they end up stumbling and taking 2 or 3 steps in the wrong direction, and they're running out of room as far as the scheduling goes. This is a team, the Cincinnati Reds, especially when you win the first 2 games of a series. It kind of reminds you of right before the All-Star break when the Cubs won the first 2 games against the series with the Pittsburgh Pirates, then dropped the remaining 2 games. These are types of games that you have to win. You have a lead, a 5-1 lead, then a 5-3 lead. They let things get away. There was a lot of things that you could point a finger and say this is why they lost the game. This wasn't one area, the Novoa balk. There were some missed opportunities, not getting advancing runners, having 2nd and 3rd and 1 out and not scoring a run, getting a chance to blow this game open. You can't let those opportunities, especially when you're playing a 2nd division team like Cincinnati, who for the most part, they're laying around waiting to get beat. And the longer you allow them to stay in a game and give them something to shoot for, you run the risk, especially when they have the last at bat in the 9th inning. They didn't need it today, but it was just a combination of things that the Cubs did not do well. To point a finger at one thing, I don't think would be fair. There were a lot of things they didn't do very well today.
We have a lot to get to, but we start with our ExxonMobil game-changing moment. It came in that 8th inning. You know, after Roberto Novoa in the 7th got out of a bases-loaded jam, this happens. How does that happen, Dan?
Well, a lot of times what happens, especially with a young pitcher, the game is moving so fast. Roberto Novoa is just learning about being a relief pitcher, pitching in tough situations. And what happens a lot of times, you're so concerned about the pitch that you want to make. You might have something in your mind that in a certain count, a 1-2 situation where you want to throw a slider and your mind is set on throwing a breaking ball. You don't get that sign, and you go into your windup, you start your windup, and it's not the pitch you want to throw, and your mind was so set on throwing that pitch that instead of taking a second and stepping off, you just go into your delivery.
Debster came in after that. He gave up a hit that led to a few more runs. Take us through that. Novoa has to come down, make a step. Talk us through what exactly is a balk, because people at home, we see different variations of it, a flinch on the mound or a guy not coming to a complete stop. In that case, what exactly happened there?
Any time that you're taking the signs from your catcher and you're on the mound and you're in a set position where it would be either with your hands at your down at your midsection or looking in to take the signs, when you nod to take the sign, and anytime you begin to start your windup, that's considered starting your windup, whether it's a flinch of your head, what you need to do there, and sometimes it's very difficult, especially when you're a younger player. You're in a situation where the crowd's on their feet, there's a lot of noise, a lot of commotion going on, and you get a little distracted. So when you bend down and you start to stand up to start your delivery, even though his intention may have been that wasn't going to be his delivery, but when you're in a set position, you take the sign and you either stand up or move your hands. It constitutes the beginning of your delivery, and it actually happened about 15 seconds before that ball caught. He did it twice, got away with it the first time. Unfortunately, he was caught doing it the second time.
But probably the Reds dugout yelled out there to tell the Blue to look for that. I mean, they probably saw what you saw and tipped off the umpires to look for it. by the same token, the Cubs are analyzing the situation, Rothschild and company. They got to say to themselves, wait, he's doing that. Maybe someone needs to go out to the mound, calm him down.
I think what happens is anytime what you're seeing, the shortcomings right now of this bullpen is the fact that the effective pitchers have been young pitchers. And Roberto Novoa, this is probably the first game he's been in a bases-loaded, nobody-out situation. Michael Wirtz, you can go on and on down the line. When this team began playing in April, I don't think that anybody imagined Novoa, Wirtz, and Ullman were going to be the main cogs in this bullpen. Now you're getting to a point of the season now where you're expecting these guys to perform like guys that have pitched for 6 or 7 years. The mistakes that they're making right now, those are mistakes that happen, but unfortunately they're magnified when you're playing on a team like the Cubs where the expectations is high. And right now the learning curve, the schedule is running thin. It's time for them to start winning games. And every game they lose right now, there's such a 5-6 team logjam for that wild card that every game is a big game that you fall behind. And they can ill afford to fall any further behind than they are right now, because basically they played themselves into a spot where they're going to have to win 7 out of 10 and at 6 out of 10 at the worst in this next stretch for the remainder of the season because of the way they played in April and May.
And that stuff, they've got St. Louis right now on the horizon. But for every blunder, like we saw there with Novoa, there were some brilliant plays in this game. It was pretty much a microcosm of their season. In the 7th inning, a bases-loaded jam. Novoa is on the mound, and Jerry Hairston Jr. came through with an amazing play in center field.
Now, this is when you think the momentum is about to switch. Rich Aurilia hits a soft one off the end of the bat, and a terrific play by Jerry Hairston. Got a little bit of a late break on the ball. That's a tough play because you see a big swing, and the ball's not hit that hard. A terrific play. And then I think the thing that hurt is right after that is where you have to come back, and the momentum is back on your side, and you have to find a way to knock the Cincinnati Reds out, to bunch something together in the next inning. Because, as I said earlier in the show, bad teams are waiting around to get beat. And if you have men on base, second and third, nobody out, first and third, one out, every opportunity that they give you to score a run, you have to take advantage of it and bury them early. And then you make them go to their bullpen for the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning. And it's not a matter of righties against righties or lefties against lefties. It's a matter of them trying to get through the next 4 innings of a ball game. Situational pitching on a bad team goes out the window.
Hairston, the Naperville product, primarily a second baseman, an infielder by trade. Do you see the tools out of him to be an everyday center fielder in Major League Baseball?
He's learning on the job right now, and unfortunately with the problems that Corey Patterson had, in a perfect world, if Corey Patterson could get himself straightened out offensively, whether it be a number 1 hitter, a 4 hitter, a 6 hitter, or an 8 hitter, to learn some patience at the plate, to get pitches that he can hit, to lay off the high fastballs. Until that happens, Jerry Hairston seems like the alternative right now. He's greatly given this offense a boost that it desperately needed to get guys on base for Lee and Ramirez. He's learning on the job. It's very difficult to be an infielder most of your career and now thrown into probably the toughest position to play in the outfield and center field.
Reds take this game 9-6. They earn the split in the 4-game series. As you mentioned at the top of the show, this was a group loss. There were fingers to be pointed all over the place. They missed a great opportunity in the 5th inning to add to their lead. Michael Barrett leads off that inning and doubles to left. How many times in your career, 18 years, have you seen 2 guys go back-to-back with doubles and yet not plate a run?
This was very unique, and we talked about this early when the game was going on. I can't remember the last time that you see back-to-back doubles and it's 2nd and 3rd and nobody out. Unfortunately, this was a tough ball to read off the bat when Jeremy Burnitz hit this ball. And the one thing that you have to cut Michael Barrett a break here, he's playing a little bit banged up right now, whether it's the hip problem that he's having. I know he's having a difficult time running. And so for him to get a good jump on a ball like that or to score on a ball like that might be asking a lot more. And then Jerry Hairston hits this ball right back to the mound here, and you're wondering why didn't he read this ball or score? When you're not 100% and running at 100% of your ability, you know, that's a tough play. The last thing you want to do the last thing you want to do is run yourself into an out, being out by 15 feet, at least to give somebody else behind you a chance. And unfortunately, Greg Maddux hit into
not Maddox's fault, because he had an RBI. He did a nice job earlier in the game, faking the bunt and then slapping one down the right side. But now let's take a look at the Feldco pitching facts from today's game. The future Hall of Famer entered 6K shy of 3,000. He ended up with 4Ks today, so now 2 shy of $3 grand in his career. typical what we've seen of Greg in recent weeks.
I mean, he's not the pitcher that he was with the Atlanta Braves 8 or 9 years ago. You know, he's not the type of pitcher that's going to be a 115, 120 inning pitcher. But what he does do, he consistently gives you a chance to win. He's had several games now that he's come out of a game and the bullpen has let a lead slip away. He pitched well enough to win today on a hot, muggy day. Unfortunately, the bullpen wasn't able to carry the load from the 6th inning to the end of the game.
Check this out. Maddux' next scheduled start will be Tuesday night at home against the Giants. Mad Dog won his 300th career game, by the way, against the same Giants team.
He's had a terrific career, and to put in perspective of what he's been able to do, it is so hard to strike out 1,000 guys, let alone 3,000 guys, and the durability that he's been able to maintain in the streak of 15 wins for consecutive years is something that is, you can't even begin to appreciate it until you look around baseball and see that very few guys have even come close to touching that.
All right, as we go to break, let's check out our Cubs poll question on this day. Who's the greatest starting pitcher in the last 3 decades? Your choices: Greg Maddux, Nolan Ryan, the Rocket, the Big Unit, or E, Steve Carlton. Go on to ComcastSportsNet.com, click on the Chicago link, and vote away. We'll have results later in the show. Time now for a trip down memory lane, courtesy of Joe's Crab Shack. On this date, back in 1923, the Phillies scored a dozen runs in the 6th frame to beat the Cubs 17-4. And welcome back to Cubs Postgame Live, presented by Joe's Crab Shack. Alongside Dan Plesac, I am Pat Boyle. The Reds take care of the Cubs 9-6 the final as they get a split in this series. Let's head back to the ballpark to hear from the guys who called the game right here on Comcast Sportsnet, Len Casper and Bob Brenly.
Well, the series started out in such promising fashion as the Cubs won the first 2 games. The Reds won last night, but the Cubs still had a chance for the series win today, and they had a 5-1 lead. Unfortunately, the bullpen could not hold up again today. 9-6 the final. Reds with 5 big runs in the 8th inning. And Bob, the bullpen struggling the last 2 days. 12 runs allowed by the Cubs relievers the last 2 games. Yeah,
and that's really discouraging. I mean, the starters have been so-so, but the bullpen has to come in and get those big outs when you really need them. I think the thing that was a little disappointing more than anything else was the fact the Cubs didn't play 9 innings today. It was very apparent that toward the latter part of the ball game, they lost their focus, they lost their concentration, they made some silly errors out there, they threw the wrong bases, and the Reds just kept grinding and turned it into a victory.
And Greg Maddux came up a couple of strikeouts short of 3,000. He had 4 today, went 5 innings, but a chance for 3,000. He's 2 away, and it'll come against the Giants Tuesday night.
Well, it'll come against the Giants Tuesday or at some point in the future. It's inevitable Maddux is going to get that 3,000. It's unfortunate it didn't happen here today, but once again, I think the big story from this ball game today was, you said, to win a ball game today, win a series, go to St. Louis with a lot of momentum, feeling good about yourselves, but to let this ball game get away today, this was a crushing defeat.
And the Cardinals coming up this weekend in St. Louis, and the matchup tomorrow night should be a dandy. It'll be Chris Carpenter for the Cardinals, Carlos Zambrano for the Cubs. Our next telecast here on Comcast Sportsnet, Monday night from Wrigley against the Giants at 7 o'clock.
All right, guys, nice job. As always, they said it best, Dan. I mean, it started out so promising, winning those first 2 games, and then, you know, you're going to stumble at times. Obviously, a big letdown with Wood yesterday, but you know, today, again, one of those games that if you really want to make a move, this is a team you have to beat as we take a look at the series stats.
There's no question. You're talking about 2 teams right now, 2 good offensive teams playing in an offensive-oriented ballpark. Anytime you jump out to a lead like the Cubs were able to do today, to get a 5-1 lead, then 5-3 going into the 5th inning, you feel pretty good about your chances. But as I said earlier in the show, when you're playing teams that are sub-500 teams that are struggling, if you give them an opportunity to believe they can win a game, it seems like it comes back and it haunts you. When you have guys in scoring position, do the best you can of trying to get them in, and when you have innings where, as a pitcher, you retire the first 2 hitters, make sure you try to keep the momentum going, have a 1-2-3 inning. They gave them an opportunity, and the Reds knocked the door down and won the game.
Well, the Cubs had some momentum going early on in this game. They were starting to get to Eric Milton in the 4th inning. It was the bottom of the order that started things off, and we've kind of seen that in the last, say, 2 weeks, even before the All-Star break, the bottom of the order generating some runs. In this instance, it's Jeremy Burnett that's singling to center and getting things going, followed by a Ronnie Cedeno double to right. What do you think of Ronnie Cedeno?
I tell you what, he's a terrific-looking young player. I mean, he has what a lot of young players need, is experience. He needs experience. He needs playing time. He handles himself very well. His body action, his mannerisms are very good. He looks comfortable playing shortstop. He has the element of speed that he can bring. And he's like all young players. They need to learn on the job. And this is a difficult situation when you're getting to play on a team where the expectations are high. The margin for error is cut down. You're expected to be a little bit more advanced in your play. But I like what I've seen so far from Ronnie Cedeno.
Todd Walker had a great series, 3 home runs, all against left-handed pitchers. What does that tell you? Should he be in the lineup and not be platooning when there's a lefty on the bump?
I mean, that's a fine line, especially when you're talking about guys that have played for 8, 9, 10 years. You get into this point of the season, it's getting very hot, very muggy, very humid, especially playing at Cincinnati and even at home at Wrigley Field. You need to spell him every once in a while to give him a break. I think one thing that he's shown up to this point as what he's brought with him since his college days at LSU, this guy was born to hit. He can hit righties, lefties, and the thing that impresses me the most about him is he hits quality pitching. He very rarely gives at-bats away, and when he's coming up in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, when an opposing manager makes a pitching change, it brings in a tough left-handed pitcher, he has quality at-bats. He doesn't give very many at-bats away.
We had a chance to see Ken Griffey Jr. the last 4 days on a inning-by-inning basis. Your thoughts on where Griff is to compare to where he was, you know, before all the injuries? And we hear about the trade rumors. Is he somebody that you would say, yeah, come on over, or do you think because of the baggage that he brings to the equation, you'd rather say, good luck, play for somebody else?
I think he has a lot of good baseball left. And to compare where Ken Griffey was, unfortunately, I guess, I was able to play against Ken Griffey many years when he was with the Seattle Mariners. There was nobody in the game at that time that could do what he could do. He could play a absolutely marvelous center field. He could cover ground to his left, to his right, over his head. He was a highlight reel. Not only that, what he brought to the plate with his power numbers, he could steal a base. And I will say this, after watching this 4-game series, he is a much improved player than he was in April and May. The first go around when they played the Cubs, his bat looked slow. He didn't like it. He was getting as good a jumps to balls in the outfield. I think right now he's starting to put it back together and get healthy. His legs are strong, and could he help somebody? There is no doubt that he could help somebody, and I think a shot that Ken Griffey could get, not only for himself going to a contending team, right now might be the best thing for him to get him refocused back on, which is the main thing, winning baseball games.
It's, you know, everything looked like it would be a perfect fit when he went to Cincinnati. Hometown kid returning to where his dad played. But we've seen in these small to medium markets, when you chunk a third or a fourth of your payroll to one guy, we saw it in Texas with A-Rod, it doesn't seem to work. There's resentment, things like that. He almost, when you make that kind of money, needs to go to a big city, a Yankee, a Cub situation where they're going to spend a lot of money, but they're also going to have superstars around him so that you're not leaning completely on Ken Griffey.
I think one of the things that general managers in baseball, executives in general, as your fear is when you have the opportunity to acquire a Ken Griffey and Alex Rodriguez, to get those kind of players and to keep them, and you're going to pay them dearly. They take up a big chunk of your salary. The problem you run into is what has happened at times when the team starts to go south, or you can't afford to put the parts around them, or their game starts to fade, whether it's due to injury or lack of talent, or, you know, as you get older, the things that were easy for you to do become more difficult. Now it becomes hard to move that contract, and the only teams that can take on a contract like that are large market clubs like the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, and unfortunately, if they have an alternative in center field or in the outfield, there's really no place that you can send Ken Griffey Jr.
Well, coming up, we're going to take a look at the Kerry Wood situation, get the latest on his injury. As we go to break, let's check out our Cubs poll question one more time. Who's the greatest starting pitcher of the last 3 decades? Greg Maddux, Nolan Ryan, the Rocket, the Big Unit, or Steve Carlton? Log on to ComcastSportsNet.com, go to the Chicago link, and then to the Cubs page and vote. All right, let's check out the pitching matchup tomorrow. The Coors Light cold hard facts. It'll be Big Z Zambrano going up against, oh, by the way, the NL leader in victories, Chris Carpenter. We saw him at the All-Star game last week.
And he is a quality pitcher. I know him from the days, he and Roy Halladay, the 2 young guns coming up in the Toronto Blue Jay organization, has had a lot of injuries this year. He stayed healthy, and he is having a Cy Young type of year.
Zambrano's been pitching well as of late. July 17th against Pittsburgh. Gave up just 5 hits, 8 strong, 1 unearned run in that game against the Bucks. So what have you seen from Zambrano as of late?
I think he's kind of, I thought the 3 or 4 starts prior to this last one, the wheels seemed to be coming away a little bit on Carlos. He was having a tough time locating his fastball, having a lot of deep counts, some deep pitch innings where he was 65, 70 pitches into the 4th and 5th inning, but he seemed to right the ship in his last start, a little bit more under control. And as we know, he's such an emotional pitcher that if he can keep his emotions in check early and throw and command the strike zone, he's the type of guy that can go 7, 8 innings and throw 75, 80 pitches, and he's one of the few pitchers in either league that can go out there with 1 pitch, a power sinker, and dominate.
Well, it was disturbing news last night. Kerry Wood did not come out in the 4th inning. We're hearing right shoulder inflammation. Basically, that is it. Not saying you're a doctor, but certainly have had a lot of experience in this game. It's a problem he's had reoccurring. Your thoughts on what this means, especially coming off an outing that he didn't need to go the full distance. He had a ton of run support in the last game, only went like 5 innings.
I mean, this was really a surprise, not only to myself, but I'm sure a lot of Cub fans. The 3 or 4 starts prior to this game last night in Cincinnati, I thought he was throwing terrific, a lot more under control. Didn't have one of those stretches where he would go 3 or 4 hitters, 14, 15 pitches, where it looked like he was having a difficult time, a lot of balls up and away, a lot of balls down in the dirt. He looked really in control of himself physically, not a lot of pitches getting away. And last night, that would really surprise me. But I go back to what I've said a few times. It's very difficult when you don't have a full spring training. What he and Mark Pryor have been through, you can throw in all the simulated games and the minor league rehab assignments, but there is nothing like pitching every 5 days in the big leagues, and they've had to play catch-up with Kerry Wood. They've had to shut him down twice, and anytime you start missing turns and missing 10, 14, 15 days of not throwing, it's not like riding a bike. You're just going to jump right back in and every 5 days take the ball and be the kind of pitcher that they need him to be, and the kind of pitcher he is. He is never going to be a control freak type pitcher like Greg Maddux. He is a power pitcher. He's going to have high pitch counts. The one thing that I disagree with some people, it is extremely hard to take a guy's mechanics after he's pitched in the minor leagues and pitched a couple of years in the big leagues. Every pitcher has a flaw, whether it's throwing across your body, your arm angle is not high enough. But the natural way that he throws, he's a power pitcher, and it's almost impossible to take a guy at this point of his career and totally reconstruct his mechanics. It's too difficult to do.
Well, that's fine, and I know every pitcher has a flaw, but if that flaw leads to disableness, I mean, you were fortunate enough to never go on the DL in your career, and we've talked about this in the past. Some of that's luck. I mean, you didn't take a Mark Pryor ball off the elbow or what have you. But if his mechanics are leading to the problems in the shoulder and the fact that he can't go out there on a consistent basis, is there some fine tweaking or something they can do to, besides medication and the different things they do is to treat it off the field to get him to where he can go on a consistent basis?
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs inside the clubhouse of what's going on or what has happened, but I can tell you this from experience. Anytime you go into a spring training and have problems in the beginning of spring training, the end of spring training, I think more than anything what he needs is he needs some rest to let that area calm down. Unfortunately, you're getting into the meat and potatoes point of this season right now, and you can ill afford to say we're going to shut him down for 4 weeks to 100% make sure that he's healthy. But then you have to make up for those 4 weeks in time, and there's not time for that right now. So the Cubs as an organization, it's frustrating for everybody, but there's a fine line of trying to send a guy out there when he's not 100%. Now, there's a difference between not being 100% and pitching when you may hurt yourself, and the last thing you want to do is jeopardize anybody's career. And I know Kerry's taken a lot of knocks for he's spending a lot of time on a disabled list, but I know this, there's nothing more that he'd like to do than be the pitcher that everybody expects him to be.
So tell me what the mood is like on that flight now to St. Louis. You're playing your arch enemy in the division, one of your best pitchers. We don't know how long he's going to be out, and oh, by the way, you just split with a very mediocre team in Cincinnati.
You hate to say it, but this was almost one of those games that this has happened time and time again with this team this year. It started in April, where it seemed like as soon as they start to get on a nice 4 or 5 game winning streak, a favorable schedule, they have a miserable homestand, have trouble in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning with the bullpen. They fix that problem. They get Wood, they get Pryor back. In this game today, this was a very tough game, especially going into a big 3-game series in St. Louis.
Hey, let's check out our poll results as we find out whether or not you think who the greatest starting pitcher was in the last 30 years. Your choices were Nolan, Roger, Greg Maddux. 43.5% say you like the Nolan Express on the bump. You agree with this?
I'm a Roger Clemens fan, having played with him for 2 years in Toronto, and still to be able to do what he's doing now in his 40s. There's nobody that has played that is doing as a power pitcher when they came in and the ultimate power pitcher on their way out.
You spent a lot of time with Roger in Toronto. You guys experienced the hockey scene. Coming up next on Comcast Sports at the NHL Players Association, they discuss the new collective bargaining agreement that will be announced officially tomorrow. That's going to do it for the quirky left-hander, Dan Plesac. I'm Pat Boyle. We'll make a little line change and talk some hockey after this.